And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, Monday morning, John's back from a 3-day weekend. Marlon, of course, we were holding down on Friday. And now we're talking about the NYPD. It's an agency in decline. So I often talk about the NYPD and I refer to it. I used to say that it was the GOAT of policing, the greatest of all time. And in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people mirror that, it no longer has that mystique, that stigma, and that image. So is the NYPD an agency in decline, or has it declined already? If so. So what are your thoughts? Let's jump right into it. Good morning, fellas. Good morning to the chat, friends and listeners. We appreciate it. Coming up on Christmas pretty soon. So let's get it going. John.
Yeah, no, I think what politicians and law enforcement agencies throughout the country have done is really weaponize perception. I think when you look at your worldview, it's your perception of reality. It's not actually reality, right? It's your biases, it's your confirmations, it's what you believe, it's what you want, it's your desires. And I think what we've seen in the last couple of months come out of Jessica Tisch is her attempt to distort your perception. And now she's trying to dial back what she was saying. And we'll go into her comments about how she at one point was saying how they were having a terrible time hiring people. And now she's like, oh yeah, this is the most amount of people we ever hired in history, and retention's down, and we're actually ahead of attrition, and we're outpacing attrition. And, to me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, you're all lying. I think that the biggest liars in America right now are those agency heads in charge of law enforcement. I think they're the biggest purveyors of this perception management. They're attempting to distort the public's reality of, their perception of reality. They want them to believe the narrative that they're pushing. John Shell spoke about it often, right? You can't give that guy a game plan because he's going to give it away. He spoke how we're going to control the narrative. We're going to control the narrative. So essentially saying you have a narrative. You don't want the facts out there. You don't want what's happening in law enforcement happening. You don't want the public to be made aware of that. You're not even telling the stories of what's happening in your own agency. You're not telling the truth of what happened in your own agency. And to me, it's evil. It's demonic. It's like sitting there and you're watching one of your children addicted to drugs and you're like, he's doing such a great job. He's going to college. He's got the whole world in front of him. And you're watching him deteriorate into absolutely nothing, not saying anything about his drug use. That's not love. That's not caring about law enforcement. That's not backing the blue. And that's what's happening right now is they're watching this profession that is clearly in decline. And they're pretending like everything's okay. Nothing needs to be fixed. Let's keep doing exactly what we've been doing the last 10 years. Diversity, equity, inclusion has been great. The 30 for 30 movement has been great. All of this legislation that's came out from the left has been awesome. Everybody loves being a cop. Everybody loves cops. And it's such a lie, and they're weaponizing those lies. And we'll go through it as we go further on here, but that's exactly what it is they're distorting your perception of reality. They know the reality. And to me, it's worse. It's worse on them than it is on anyone else. I think law enforcement, the head of law enforcement are the worst politicians we have in America right now. They're the worst. Absolutely.
Good morning, guys. Quick shout out to those of you in the chat. I see Hardcore, Hassan, Terry, Stephen S, Lily. Who else we have in here? Eddie West. I see some new faces too. Choco Johnny and NY Finest. Welcome, guys. Yeah. Happy Friday. Man, I don't know where this week went, but yeah. Those comments she made were recent. They were, for those of you who don't know, they were during the academy and the recruit swearing in, and they were done at the promotional ceremony. And I think perception management, which is really public relations, and deception are really all they have left, because they're unwilling to do the things they should do, because again, it if they were to do that, then the nepotism class wouldn't be eating, and that's a no-go for them. They want to protect that class and protect the cronies who get the crumbs from that system at all, at all costs. So they're unwilling to do the things they should, and they're kind of being squeezed into a situation where I think it's due to the budget again that's coming, that they're being squeezed into a situation where the only way to manage things is to manage the perception of things, and not to do what they should do, and that there are things that they can't do, because again, the system, the corruption in the system has kind of like closed up their avenues of kind of correcting things overnight. So that's where we are right now.
Well, I don't think the agency, and we talk about the agency, the NYPD, is in decline because cops stopped caring. While in my opinion, that a majority of the cops that are hired right now are meek, timid, and docile, and don't have the same traits that we've needed throughout the historical measures of the NYPD, I still believe that a good majority of them actually care, and they believe in what they're doing. And I think the decline is because the leadership stopped leading. The leadership stopped putting public safety in front of politics. Politics is in front of public safety. And I think that really distorts the NYPD and puts the NYPD on complete decline. I don't think the NYPD is in decline. I think it's declined already. And in my opinion, it was the go to policing and no longer more. The NYPD was so iconic. I mean, every TV show that you watch, every movie was based on the NYPD. And I'm sure if someone watched a movie right now about the NYPD, you feel much different in comparison to it now and say, wow, is that the same NYPD? And when you think, even if you just think of law enforcement or police work, I think the first thing that would come to mind is the New York City Police Department, right? I would always find it odd that when we would watch training videos about law enforcement and see a law enforcement training video that had to do with an agency outside the NYPD. And I would think, why we even watch this? We have so much volume and material from the NYPD. This is all we should be watching. And it was always, to me, it was the goat of policing. It was the pioneers, the premier. It's the front of everything. And I think that's completely changed. It's no longer the goat of policing. And it's not because of the cops. It's because of the leadership apparatus. And the leadership apparatus has destroyed the NYPD. One of the main factors, I think, that put the agency in decline is what we often talk about, is the discipline process and the discipline standard. And that rips away at an agency, especially like the NYPD. There's not an equal distribution and fairness of due process when it comes to promotions, when it comes to amenities, when it comes to tangibles, and especially discipline. And if we look at the discipline matrix, I think that's one of the main reasons why we see a decline in this agency, particularly the NYPD, because there's a tiered system and it's not an equal system. And we've seen it publicly. We've seen it publicly with Jeffrey Madry. We've seen it publicly with John Schell. We've seen it publicly with Kaz Daughtry. And with this administration, it's far more than ever. I mean, you can legitimately see there is an obvious, no longer is this just like an invisible line where you could see there is general population. There is a tier 1 and tier 2 segment of the NYPD. It's right in front of your eyes. And I think that is a major part of the decline. And when cops don't feel supported, and when the public feels that the cops can't actually fight crime because of the leadership, well, the agency declines right there.
100%. I mean, I think, the NYPD has declined significantly in the last decade, but it remains going into that decline. It's continuing to decline as we speak now. Like, it's still headed down this really dark path. And we see what's happening with the new budget of that we just put another $1.1 billion towards this Department of Community Safety. So, when you look at any corporation or anything, like, there's an old saying in business: people don't leave their job they leave the environment, right? They hate it. It's not that they hate what they do. And especially, I don't think cops hate what they do. It's a really fun job, man. It's a really exciting job. You really get a front row, especially in New York City. You have a front row ticket to the greatest show on earth. Not only do you have a front row ticket, you have VIP access to everything that's going on. So, I mean, to me, when I'm watching people that don't want to do that anymore, it's the environment that's been created. It's the entire ecosystem. 100% the disciplinary matrix is a part of that. 100% it's the bad leadership or lack of leadership. It's 100% all of the unfair treatment, the biases, the nepotism that's in there. When you look at that entire ecosystem, you're watching this in decline. And then when you look about people don't want to take the job anymore, right? She's like, we hired 4,000 people. Yeah, but you're hiring people that traditionally in the past you would never have hired. They don't meet the physical requirements. You know, I'm watching Eric Sanders now talk about this 1.5 mile run, and I want to throw up every time I watch it because I'm like, look, first off, I'm going to kill this entire legal argument right now. If this has been a condition of employment in the NYPD forever, right? As long as I can remember, as long as anyone could remember. 1.5 mile run. Condition of employment. You want to become a cop, you need to be able to run 1.5 mile run, dependent on your age, dependent on your gender, in certain amount of times, dependent upon national standards. Now, we heard people say, oh, you know, what, cop never needs to run a mile and a half. If you can't run a mile and a half, you have no business being a New York City police officer. But yet, class after class, we're hiring tons of people that can't even meet a simple minimal requirement that me and Eric, nearing towards 46 years old, could walk and beat the time. We don't even have to run. We could walk it and beat the 1.5 mile run. The 1.5 mile run, we could walk in that time. And so if it wasn't in decline, if it wasn't in decline, would you hire people that couldn't do a 1.5 mile run? No. If it wasn't in decline, would you hire people with drugs in their system and tell them, well, until you get out of the academy, we'll test you again? No, you wouldn't. Would you hire people that haven't met the psychological qualifications, that are on medication, that are seeing psychiatrists and psychologists and failed the psychological exam? No, you wouldn't be calling those people back and just base it on the amount of applicants they have, right? There was a time when there was 60 to 80,000 applicants. Now they're lucky if they get 8,000 applicants, and you're telling me half of those people are qualified to be cops? Come on. It's an absolute joke. Marlon, before you go, I just want to play Jessica Titch in March of this year, what she had to say about hiring. This is her in March of this year, before now she starts on her new messaging, what's coming out, getting ready for the Madani administration. So this is Jessica Titch in March of this year. Listen to what she has to say about hiring.
Work of this department certainly makes our city safer, but we need more cops. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The NYPD is in a hiring crisis, and this is not a budget problem. Mayor Adams has given us all the resources we need and greenlit every class we want.
So not a budget problem, right? Not a budget problem. We are in a hiring crisis, and it's not a budget problem. Eric Adams greenlit everything. So what's the problem?
Yeah, it's funny how quickly this administration, are ready to pat themselves on the back and say how great they are. You just you didn't mention that you lowered standards to get to be able, in order to fill this academy class. You lowered standards, and as we've talked about before, there's a lot of shenanigans happening with the candidate assessment and that entire process in order to get warm bodies into the academy. So you didn't mention that, but you're ready to congratulate yourselves for what you've done this year. I think it's a little bit early for that. I think first of all, those recruits have to they have to actually graduate the academy. Okay, and we all know that I forget what the exact number it was, but let's just say a lot of people don't make it through the academy. And the other thing is, you have a lot of young cops these days who are leaving the job. which is different from the old days, you know, whereas guys would were less likely to leave and job hop. Nowadays, this younger generation are more quick to pull that trigger and to move on to different job or maybe a different agency. So I think it's a little early for them to be doing that. But again, I think it goes back to them, you know, per, managing perception, because again, it's they don't want to do the things they should do to fix the job and to in order to be able to go anywhere and recruit the best candidates. You know, I think it's funny that you get other departments that are always coming here, like Dallas, Vegas. I think Dallas was I think a couple of weeks ago they were up here. But I think it's funny that you're always getting these agencies that come up here and recruit us. And how often do we hear about the NYPD going to their cities and recruiting their cops? Yeah. And I think that is you know is just an indication of where things are at. If things were so great in the NYPD, we would be able to go pitch a recruitment table in front of one of Dallas's commands and get every young cop over there to join the NYPD. Because why wouldn't they? This is the NYPD. We had that reputation for years. So I think she's jumping the gun here with that self-congratulatory speech.
Yeah, well, I think I think you're right on target here, and I think that the more that the NYPD and especially by Jessica Tisch have to put out information to the public about how great recruitment is and how great they are succeeding in getting people to take the job. And I almost feel like the more they throw this down people's throats, the more they have to cover a lie. Because if the NYPD is doing so well with recruitment, if the NYPD is doing so well and there's no mass exodus, if the NYPD is doing so great getting the best and the finest and being selective, well, they won't have to tell you, because the image and will tell its own story. It's like, when someone does real estate and they bring someone to a house, the house sells itself. The realtor doesn't have to tell you how great this house is in every detail by it. The house will sell itself. And I feel it's the same thing when it comes to the NYPD. You don't have to tell us how great the NYPD is. You don't have to tell us how it's having historic lows in crime. And you don't have to keep telling us how you're doing so great with recruitment. If it's actually happening, we'll see it. So they have to sell it because they have to keep covering up for another lie, which is just more gaslighting, which is what we've seen this entire administration through every police commissioner within the NYPD under Eric Adams. We've just seen the playbook has been gaslight, perception versus reality, and that's what we see. And I think it's listen, is it great to have bodies? Yes, but we need to be selective. But we can't be selective right now because they can't get anyone. No one wants that job. There was a time where people would move from all different parts of the country. You're absolutely right, Marlon. People would move from LA. People would move from parts of Florida, Georgia, to become a New York City cop. Everyone wanted to be a New York City cop because it was the go-to policing. It was iconic. But you don't see that anymore. It's actually the other way around, where people are leaving the NYPD to all different parts of the country to become a cop somewhere where you feel supported, where you feel that there's better treatment, and you feel like you actually have a mission. And that's the problem right now, is these cops, they don't know what their mission is anymore because politics and optics has been put in front of public safety. No longer are we supporting the Constitution and balancing civil liberties and actually stopping crime and because they're not opposites, right? Protecting civil liberties and stopping crime should not be opposites. It should be coexisting. But these cops don't know what their mission is anymore. We don't have alpha males and alpha females as a majority. Are there outliers? Absolutely. But the majority of them aren't. And some people say, well, that's not true. Well, it is true. Marlon and I spoke on Friday where we spoke about another police officer that was robbed off duty. And in my opinion, that's another indication that we're not hiring alpha males and alpha females that have those characteristics and traits, and they're being trained as cops and have those situation awareness or have that appearance that on duty and off duty, you would know that person's a cop, or at least not someone that you should enter their personal space. And the fact that cops often get targeted and are getting robbed and confronted off duty, to me, means, well, the person of interest or the perpetrator doesn't perceive someone as being a cop. They don't have that aura. They don't believe that they're armed. They don't believe that they're a cop. That's why they're being robbed, because it's just another regular citizen, in my opinion, based on some perpetrator's observations.
No, yeah. I mean, look, that's what it is. They're hiring victims, you know, and why is that? It's because they declined on the physical standards, right? But I don't care how you went in the academy. When you came out of the academy, most people had a certain type of build and a certain type of look after doing those exercises, right? And then when you get someone out in the street for a year or two, even just 6 months out of impact, the way they stand, the way they act, the way they talk, I could look at people and be like, yeah, that dude's a cop, that dude's a cop, that dude's a cop. You don't see that anymore. Why? Because we alleviate standards. So on the heels of the mandate, NYPD says, oh, we could just say, here, you have to take this vaccine. It's a condition of employment, right? And courts are fighting this tooth and nail. In the case of Athena Clark, New York State Supreme Court said that at any time, the city could just say, yeah, all you guys need a PhD. You need to get a PhD in 7 days or you're out, condition of employment. And that's what the city of New York argued, and the judge upheld. So now we have a standard, a 1.5-mile run, that's been a condition of employment forever, that numerous people of every faith, every gender, every race, every sexual preference have been able to do. And what are we doing? We're arguing against that. Oh, no, nobody should be able to have to run. Nobody needs to run a 1.5-mile run. And you know, people have pointed out Steven Siller, right? What does Steven Siller do as a fireman? He has about 100 pounds of equipment on him. He runs about 3.5 miles with about 140 pounds of equipment through the Battery Tunnel. He essentially does a 5K run to the Twin Towers to go do his job. So I don't care what Nita Holmes said. Cops need to run a 1.5 mile run. And if they can't run a 1.5 mile run, they have no business being on the job. And that goes for active cops as well. You know, so watching the decline in the physical standards and the psych standards tells you everything you need to know about the decline that we're actually in. You know, and again, like you pointed it out, you guys pointed out on Friday, these cops aren't getting robbed off duty. Perpetrators are looking at them and they're not seeing a cop. They're seeing a victim. They're like, oh, this person's out of shape. This person's not paying attention. This person doesn't know what's going on around them. They have no idea who they are. And so they rob them, right? Because they look like easy victims. And to me, for years, I would always say there's only two people paying attention on the streets in New York City: cops and criminals. I could walk down a block, I could spot cops out, and I could spot guys up that's to no good. And you know what? And we all see each other. Everybody makes eye contact, right? And today, the only people paying attention seem to be criminals, retired cops, and guys that came out in a different era. And really, really young guys that are very curious. The guys that are coming out through the training just aren't being built like that. They're just not. And so for Jessica Tisch now to try to push back on all this is to me, it really bothers me. So like, what are we putting this Department of Community Safety for? And I've been saying for a long time, I've been saying for over 3 years now, I've been saying more NYPD cops have retired early, or resigned under this administration than at any other point in history. Why is that? Nobody will go in onto that. Nobody will answer those questions. And so here's her response. Now, just months off, you heard her. They're having a problem hiring. Just months later, listen to her response to that statement. This is at a swearing-in ceremony for 1,000 cops. They haven't went through the academy yet. They're going to lose about 20% of this class. If anybody fails out anymore, let's see, I don't know. But traditionally they lose about 20% through the academy. Then in the first year, they continue to lose. So let's hear what she has to say.
That matters because there are people who would have you believe that policing is a profession in retreat. Let me be clear, that narrative is wrong. That's why I want to set the record straight. This year, the NYPD did not experience an unexpected or extreme wave of departures. Retirements this year were exactly what we projected based on the 3,700 officers that we hired 20 years ago in 2005. More importantly, despite what critics say, the number of people leaving the department before they are eligible for their full pension is down by more than 40% since 2022.
Yeah. What does that mean exactly? It's down. What does that mean? It's down more than 40%. Like, I don't understand that.
But if you listen to what she's saying, she says they're down more than 40%. The people leaving early are down more than 40% since 2022. The reason she's saying that is because she's telling you how many, she doesn't know she's doing it, but she's telling you how many people were forced out during Eric Adams' vaccine mandate, right? That's why they're down. So that's the only year in NYPD history that she could point to show that actually it's down the amount of people that are leaving early, retiring early, or resigning. 2022. And now, why was that? Because every week they were putting people's feet to the fire, denying them religious accommodations, denying them medical accommodations, and saying, all right, here you go. We picked you this week. Are you going to get fired, or what are you going to do? And a lot of people left as a result of it. So that's why she hones in on that year specifically, because the fact of the matter is she proved what I've been saying for 3 years. More cops have retired early, or resigned under this administration than any point in history. And the only year she could point to was 2022, which was a year, Adams' first year in office, at the height of the mandate. That's why she specifically goes to that year.
Yeah. I mean, my problem with that is without I mean, we're the largest police department in the country. We're like the size of a small army. There's really, I mean, LA has like I think at the most it had like 10,000 cops. You know, so they still kind of overshadow us. And Chicago had around there too. So at the most we still overshadow all of them. Okay, so the problem for me is that when we have upwards of 300 cops a month leaving the department, even though you tell me that number is down by 40%, I mean that still means we're still losing like a small police department, the equivalent of a town sheriff's office every month here, and which is still a problem, you know. And you know, you're ready to pat yourselves on the back because you got a large academy class, but you still haven't corrected much of the problems that are driving cops to leave to begin with, you know. So I see that, and it's like what world do you live in, you know? Are you aware of the actual issues that are facing cops, or you know, are you just listening to the hot air being pumped into the top floors of 1PP? You know, I see now that the department is circulating a questionnaire about asking cops about the quality of the job and questions about the job, and I'm like, do you really need to do that? You know, I mean, anytime they circulate these questionnaires, I think is very stupid. Just go to the precincts and talk to them yourselves. Get out of your bubble and talk to them. But you see, again, it's all image and not actually solving the problems. Okay, and not actually talking about the problems, because talking about the problems means self-reflection and changing the system in place.
Well, for one, you know, it's a good point that you mentioned, right? You could just easily just go to these commands and actually have real conversations with the cops that have their boots on the ground on the front line. And those questionnaires are not even organic anyway, because most of the cops are actually timid and meek to actually answer them honestly. Why? Because they're boxed in on these questionnaires, and it's actually determined exactly who filled it out. It's never anonymous, right? What's your age? What's your rank? What's all these demographic questions, so that they can actually figure out who you are without putting your name in a particular precinct. So cops are actually timid to be honest. So I don't think that these questionnaires are ever honest and organic. Now, what's interesting, if we go back to 2022, in comparisons with the mass exits, I believe 2022 was the year that they completely tried to wash out the police department and get rid of most of the tier 2 and get rid of the alpha males and alpha females and to start this meek and timid police department that we see, right? Because it wasn't just the vaccine. The vaccine, I believe, was at the forefront in the majority. But 2022, there's no coincidence that 2022 is the year that I retired, targeted by an overzealous civilian complaint review board. 2022 is the year that Sal Greco was wrongfully terminated. 2022 is when John and Marlon had to leave the police department. Marlon wrongfully terminated. John had to make a decision to leave. So 2022 is a pinnacle year. And of course, that's why she makes the comparison 40% to 2022. The NYPD is great at picking years to have manipulatory statistics, right? We see it often. When Michael Kemper was in transit, they did it often. They picked and chose which years they were going to use as comparisons for crime. So this is just more gaslighting. Now, when we go back, I just want to talk about when we go back to standards. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we've had this argument that when it comes to the mile and a half, that you're not going to run a mile and a half, and so why are you doing one? That's the most ridiculous thing. Now, I know. And we all know if you're training, you always have to be over prepared, right? And I used to, fight out of a box out of a gym in Westchester, and I would spar quite often. And just for amateur fights, they would say an average person should train about 10 to 15 hours for 1 minute round. Now, for pros, that actually increases to about 15 to 20 hours. So think about that. If you're doing, like, for instance, a police smoker, let's say you're doing 3 1-minute rounds. That's 3 minutes. You would have to train about anywhere from 30 to 60 hours for those 3 minutes. And the same thing goes for police officers. You're not going to run a mile and a half in the street, most likely, but you might have to run a mile. I'm sorry, not a mile, a block at full speed under complete duress, under stress, chasing after a perpetrator, a person of interest with a legal firearm. So your body and your mind has to prepare for that. So this ideology is absolutely ridiculous. I think this lawsuit falls completely flat on its feet. Why are we contesting this? We should want our police officers to be more than prepared. We should want them to be in the best shape so they have lower anxiety levels, so that they're confident and prepared to run a block. They're confident and prepared so their bodies and hearts can handle an amount of stress and adrenaline while they're doing their job. So this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's just another way to get more bodies in, and it's becoming a cop factory. Let's just get people in there. It doesn't matter if they fit the mold. It doesn't matter if they have the standards, as long as they can put the uniform on, and we could say, oh, now we have 36,000 or whatever number, and could just completely lie to the public. Well, yeah, you have another empty suit and uniform, but you sure as hell don't have a cop. And I would always tell people that when you put on that uniform your first couple of years, you're a police officer. You have to earn the right to be a cop. And the majority of recruits that I see and candidates don't have the potential to be cops. And they don't have the leadership. The leadership is the job. They should be the ones promoting a good police department. The police department is not failing because of the cops. The cops have failed because of leadership. Low standards. There's no training. And again, I'll go back to Friday. We have cops getting robbed off duty constantly. That means that the perception is that there are violent perpetrators and offenders in the streets who see what they believe are potential victims. Those potential victims happen to be cops because they don't have that aura that says, hey, this is my space. I'm aware of my situation. And most people, if John was off duty or I was off duty or Marlon or most of our retired members, that if they were walking the streets of New York City, it's not about being 6'7", 300 pounds, but you would have an aura where people say, that person might be a cop and they might have a gun. So I'm not going to approach them with my little knife. So are police officers the same as they were before? Absolutely not.
Yeah, but I think it's even bigger than that. I think it's like, well, will this person defend himself? You know what I mean? Like, look, it doesn't matter if you're the toughest person in the world. Nobody wants to get punched in the face. Nobody wants to, even if nobody wants to get punched in the face. If they think that you're gonna give them a problem or a fight, even if they think they could win the fight, but you might give them a little problem, nobody's robbing you, man. Like, you could get beat up one day. If you fight hard, the next day you show up, that guy doesn't want to fight you. He's gonna be like, no, we're good, bro. We're cool. We're boys. We're friends. He ain't gonna want to fight you the next day, guaranteed. Even if he kicked your ass, you're like, "No, this guy's tough. This guy hit me a couple of times. I don't want to deal with that again." Guaranteed. So I just like, to me, one, I don't think there's any standards in the police academy. To sit there and say that, it's not an agency in decline, it's not a profession in decline when you're removing basic 1.5 mile run and you were supposed to reinstitute it. And I don't even think it's reinstituted, by the way. And then to hear people claim that it's racist against minority women. I'm like, hold on. So a 1.5 mile run's racist? Having that is like to keep blacks away from the New York City Police Department, when everything we've done in the New York City Police Department is remove hurdles, right? According to the diversity, equity. Oh, like the hurdles, like having to pass a psych test, not having a horrible criminal history. But it's perfectly fine to get rid of the white kid from Long Island who played football for college that had a red beer cup summons, right? He was drinking a red beer and had a C summons. Like, we don't want that kid, right? That kid works out every day. That kid, we don't need him, right? Because he's not what we're looking for. He's not the flavor. And so it's absolutely ridiculous. A 1.5 mile run's not racist. If it was, it would be racist towards white people, because when I look at the NFL, when I look at the NBA, when I look at soccer, I traditionally don't see a lot of people that are that fast that are white. Like, it's like, I'm not saying that white people aren't fast, but when you look at who's dominating sports right now, when you look at who's dominating track and field, doesn't look like black people are having a hard time running. So I don't know what the hell that whole thing's about. That's just another diversity, equity, and inclusion push. And I really believe diversity, equity, inclusion destroyed the job. And what you hearing from Jessica Tisch is just complete denial of what's going on. It's the same thing. It's like, all right, well, we'll lie about the crime numbers. And now we're going to lie about our attrition rates. We're going to lie about our retention rates. It's down. The amount of people leaving are down since 2022. I didn't say this year was the most year on record that people are leaving. I said this administration as a whole, when you look at it, when you look at the entirety of the Eric Adams administration, more cops have retired. They blame that on the large classes, but they shouldn't. Because I was looking at a personnel chart the other day. My class of 2004, 43% of them left. 43% of them left. When you look at 2024, you know how many of them are left? Like 63%. So here you got a class that's on their 22nd year, and they're about a little bit more than halfway done. And now you have a class who's only 1 year, and they're about almost halfway done. I mean, to sit there and say, like, you're attrition. No, we expected this. No, you didn't. No, you absolutely did not. Now, what I want to see is I don't even want to see the chart for that. I want to see that chart compared to what did that attrition rate look like in 2004 when I came on a job. What did that look like then? Because I guarantee you didn't see the class of 2005 a year later at 63%. I guarantee you didn't see it. I guarantee when you look at the class of 2005, 10 years later, it didn't look at 63%. When you look at it 15 years later, it didn't look at 63%. But 1 year later, the classes that you put in the year, they're at 63% attrition. 47% of the class is gone. Excuse me, 37%, whatever. I failed math a lot when I was a kid, but you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, the attrition is insane at that point. And to sit there and be like, this is expected, it's a complete bull-faced lie.
Yeah, I see Eric Sanders' point about the 1.5 mile run, but I'm gonna say it's not about I think here's what I think. It's not the 1.5 mile run isn't about doing a 1.5 mile run. It's not. It's about having the stamina and the willpower to stay in the fight, stay in the run. Are you going to drop out of this run? Are you going to quit when you're meeting when things get rough? When that purpose is when you're in a fight with that purpose for a struggle, are you going to give up? Are you going to So I think it's kind of silly to kind of get rid of it, considering like every department in this country has the Cooper's test, and that's part of it. So, but I mean, I see that you're never gonna have to run a mile and a half to chase a purpose. It's really a sprint. But again, it's about the mental toughness that you need for this job. And what's one of the things we always say in this job, we always say in this podcast, that unfortunately, I, I, like we don't think the Zoomers have, a lot of them have the mental toughness for this job, and it's not. Don't get me wrong, they're not all like that, okay? But there are certain character traits that each generation tends to largely have, and I believe one of the problems with Zoomers is that they've been raised via helicopter parents, and in a world of participation trophies, so they're not prepared for a lot of the adversity they're gonna face in adulthood, But with that said, I don't think we're gonna help that problem. We're gonna fix that problem by getting rid of even more standards, that the prior generation had to go through in order to get the job, So I think that's my thinking on the mile and a half run. But I saw a comment in the chat. Somebody mentioned that they heard Eric Adams. I think it was I Told You So who said that Eric Adams mentioned that Tish was one of the architects of the system during the scamdemic. And I didn't hear that myself, but it wouldn't surprise me because again, Tish has played. She, as I said a couple episodes back, she is one of those funnels for tech into the NYPD. And one of the problems with the NYPD of today is that I think there's an over reliance on tech. How many times do we see these cops on foot patrol on foot posts? They're standing up and staring at their phone because they're getting bombarded with all kinds of superfluous notifications, and everything was on that friggin' phone. And we patrol for generations, for decades, without needing to be bombarded every 2 seconds with some stupid notification. So I think the over reliance on tech and has been one of those things that's kind of hurt the actual meat and potatoes policing. And Tish has been the architect of that. So it doesn't surprise me if Adam said that she was one of the architects of the the database or the tracking of that the city did during the scamdemic. And also it doesn't surprise me because, as I learned a couple of days ago, her family seems to be connected with a certain unscrupulous billionaire who had a island in the Caribbean, and he kind of did a lot of shady things down there, if you know who I'm talking about.
Look, the police academy for policing is just basic entry level training just to get you certified. Just as the same thing in boot camp when you join the Marine Corps or the Navy or any branch of service, right? Your boot camp is your entry level training to get you indoctrinated and certified to be part of this organization. So when you join the police academy, I don't believe that we're asking someone to be exceptional in any form. We're just asking them to meet the standards so that they're able to be a part of this organization and you can excel and get more training. But as you go ahead, does it test your mental fortitude that you're able to do this job? Well, and you bring up a great point. I think that correlates. Physical fitness and physical standards are extremely important because they also measure your mindset, right? Do you have the mindset to be a police officer? Because as a police officer, you're going to be under stress, you're going to be under duress, and you have to be able to perform. Now, I think it's actually the other way around. I think it's actually racist, and I think it's actually biased to say that a group of people, if they're black or brown, shouldn't have to do a mile and a half or have to do a specific fitness. Somehow it's discriminatory towards them. I think it's discriminatory saying that they can't do it, because everyone should have an equal opportunity to show that they can actually measure these skills to become a police officer. And we're not asking them to do anything that's above and beyond. We're not asking them to be exceptional, right? We're asking them just to do enough so that as you go with your training, you could become exceptional. I don't think asking someone. I think nationally the average rate for a mile and a half, I think, is 15 minutes, around 15 minutes. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's about 15 minutes nationally for a mile and a half. 15 minutes is pretty damn slow, especially the majority of people when they join the police department usually join when they're early 20s, where you probably at 20 have the maximum amount of reps per minute that you could put out for your heart rate, right? In comparison to someone who's in their 30s or 40s, as you get older, you put out less reps per minute and your heart could take less. So you're in your early 20s. To ask someone to do 15 minutes for a mile and a half is not, we're not asking them for a lot. We're not asking them to go out and be Usain Bolt. We're asking them to do enough so that you can be a police officer. Can you be pushed a little bit under stress and duress? These are, I think, the average amount of push-ups someone could do that's in a police department nationwide, I think is about 24, 25, nothing astronomical. So to say that a test is racist or it's discriminatory, I think it's discriminatory to say that someone can't actually pass that when these standards are not so high anyway. How much lower do you want to make these standards in the police department or law enforcement profession on a nationwide level that we're actually devaluing a police officer when they enter this career? We're devaluing them, saying, well, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. Well, how do we have pride in an organization if we don't have to do anything? To me, what makes you more prideful when you wear that uniform is the academics that you had to go through, the physical fitness you had to go through, the stresses you had to go through wearing that uniform, and so that you have those values, and it transposes to how you're going to treat the public and how the public is going to perceive you. So I just think this is completely ridiculous. This is silly. And I think John made up a great point, right? A majority, if you look at the NBA, a majority are black males, right? Not white males. I'm not saying that white males can't be good ball players, but the majority is black males. And you have to be in amazing cardio shape to play basketball or any type of sport like that. So this is absolutely ridiculous. A mile and a half, we're not asking someone to do a lot. A mile and a half at 15 minutes, I'm pretty sure, if you get an opportunity to test it, I'm pretty sure John's right. I think you could actually walk it, or at least a fast walk. 15 minutes is not much.
You got 100% walk a mile and a half, 15 minutes. I walk it without even trying to do that. Like literally just, and I consider that I walk pretty slow. Like I don't think that I walk at a fast pace at all. And so like to me, it's just ridiculous, dude. And you wouldn't be lowering standards if you had this mass amount of people that were looking to take the job. You just wouldn't. You're lowering standards to meet classes. That's what you're doing. Like, I mean, it's not a joke. Like, you're not taking reports because you want to lower crime. It's not because you could stop crime, because if you could stop crime, you would just stop the crime. Instead, you're just like, no, we're just not going to take those reports. And it's the same here. It's like you're just going to lower the standards of what the pool of applicants you have to get to those pool of applicants so that you could actually hire them. And, look, I don't think the NBA is racist. Does anyone think that the NBA is racist? I don't. I think that they draft and they put the best basketball players on the field, on the court, so that they sell the most amount of tickets and they make the most amount of money and people get the most amount of enjoyment. And team owners get the people that they think could win. Does that mean that white people can't play basketball? No. You look at the kid like Cooper Flagg. That kid came in the league. He's 18 years old. He's running everybody, right? Doesn't mean white people could not play basketball, but disproportionately, black people seem to be better at basketball. Doesn't make the NBA racist. I don't hear any calls for diversity, equity, inclusion on the NBA court, right? Until you start calling for diversity, equity, inclusion on the NBA court, like, nah, we need X amount of Asians. We need the same amount. It needs to be organically made up. It needs to be exactly made up with how the country looks. We need 6% Asians. We need 13% blacks. We need 30% white. We need whatever. And now break it down. We need a couple of transgenders out there. We need gay people. We need Jews. We need Muslims. Until you start doing that in the NBA, why would you? And think about it. What are you trying to do in the NBA? It's entertainment. You don't put it in the NBA. You don't put diversity, equity, inclusion inside of the NBA or the NFL. And that's just entertainment. What happens if you lose the game? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Who gets hurt if the New York Knicks don't win? Nobody. But yet in law enforcement, We're going to take this ideology that we wouldn't put on an entertainment field, and we're going to bring it over law enforcement. What happens when you don't win in law enforcement? People die. Innocent people die. People are murdered. Lives are lost. People are killed. People aren't saved. And you're going to take this ideology and you're going to put it on the you know why they call it? If someone asked me one time, why do they say it's the job? Why do they say it's the job? And I'm like, because it's the one that matters the most. Because you do everything. You teach kids. You're a psychiatrist. You're a fireman. You're an EMS worker. You're running towards every situation that everyone and their mother's running the other way from. And you're expected to know all of it. That's why it's called the job. So why are we putting this entire racist, dumb ideology of diversity, equity, inclusion and putting it on the most important job, but we don't put it on entertainment? It's ridiculous. And I don't understand Eric Sanders' points at all. It's ridiculous to me to say that. It's honestly ridiculous to me. You can't run a mile and a half. I don't want to work with you. I don't want to be in a car with you. That tells me that you don't have the mental fortitude to accomplish the simplest things in life. You're not ready to do this job. Should we take people that can't run a mile and a half and put them in SEAL Team 6? Guess what's going to happen when we do? They're going to drown in the ocean in training and die. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think in that there's a danger of the danger. The problem with one of the problems with policing right now, with the way things are going in this country and the world, largely with AI and surveillance, is I think the people at the top don't right now, they don't appreciate the human cop there. They think that using all this technology that you don't need that cop who can run a mile and a half now. You don't need a cop who you don't need the cop who's physically fit to do the job, because again, they're creating like a global, in America at least, they're creating a surveillance blanket that's tracking you the minute you leave your house, and in a lot of ways they're tracking you from the time you turn on your phone and you connect online. So I think with that, these people don't appreciate human beings, the human cop, the human element of policing anymore. And I think the danger of getting rid of the mile and a half run, be it through policy or litigation, is that we're kind of furthering that agenda along, where we get rid of all these standards, because again, we don't need the best people. We can take a cop who's 20% of what the prior generations were, because we have the tech and the surveillance to make up that 80% that we've lost. And I think to be honest with you, I think people like Tish would love that to get rid of the mile and a half, because she would love that to happen. Because think of it, she now would be able to fill the academy with even more unqualified people. But I mean, it's unqualified to us, but to her, she's filling those warm seats. She's getting those bodies into the academy, and again, she's pushing an agenda. And I just got sent so I told you so is correct on this. Tish was part of that infrastructure that the city created to track us during COVID, because Eric Adams said it in her when he appointed her. He said it in the actual speech. And again, as I said before, Tish, her family is connected to that unscrupulous billionaire, and that unscrupulous billionaire was invested in all the tech. Okay. He's invested in all the tech and connected to all these people who are creating this digital surveillance blanket. Okay. And again, she herself has been a funnel for a lot of this technology into the police department that's changing the product that we get. That's getting rid of the meat and potatoes policing in favor of tech and drones and all this surveillance tech. So I think that the problem with getting rid of the mile and a half is that we are contributing to that agenda, and whereas we should be going back and slowing down this progression into a surveillance society and a society where we have inadequate cops. We need to go back to where you can do the job, the same job that your prior generations did, except now you may have one or two additional tools to help you out and not to replace you.
You know what lowest standards equal to? You know what lowest standards are equivalent to? Lowest standards, to me, are equivalent to the death of cops. That's what this is. It's to the death of cops, because we're not just measuring physical fortitude. We're measuring mental mindset. Marlon, you alluded to it, right? The reason why you do the 1.5 miles is to test that, God forbid, you're in some type of fight for your life, that you could actually measure up and you could perform. But that's what this is about. It's not about, because if this was about physical fitness, the requirements would be much more difficult. I think if this was about physical fitness, about natural talent, and about raw talent, we would have the standards set at 10 minutes for a 1.5 miles or 9 minutes for a 1.5 miles. We would ask for cops to run at super speeds, but that's not what we're asking. We're just putting a specific number for a 1.5 miles so cops could actually be pressure tested. That's what this is about. You should be pressure tested so that you could perform. We need to know that you'll do the 1.5 miles, that when you're in a situation where you're running a block and you're fighting for your life, or maybe just chasing someone down a hallway and your heart is racing, that you could actually measure up to perform, and you have that mental fortitude, right? So this is more about mental fortitude behind or pushing that physical fitness, in my opinion. So Tabitha Foster, great friend to the podcast, she says, comparing Black people's achievements in sports or holding them as natural athletes to justify or dismiss physical fitness requirements like a mile run for NYPD is inappropriate. So I have to push back. I think we're talking about apples and oranges. Now, we're making the comparison. We're talking about that a majority of the NBA or a majority of professional sports are dominated by Black people. Now, and what we're saying is that a majority of Black people do have those raw talents to perform physically fit. So based on the standards of the NYPD, which are much less, I don't even think we can make that comparison. I don't think they're inappropriate at all. But what I'm thinking, what's more important, what I'm saying here is the mental mindset. We want our police officers, Black, brown, white, girl, male, doesn't matter, transgender, whatever you are, is that you have the mental mindset to actually perform in a physical situation where you're performing with high stress levels and you're performing under duress. So I think this is a completely different comparison. Your life is not on the line when you're playing basketball. You have that physical fitness. When you're doing police work, your life is on the line. So that's why it's important to run a 1.5 miles where you may only be chasing someone in a hallway, but you're performing at a high rate and you're under duress and stress because your life is on the line. And not only is your life on the line, who else's life is on the line? The public. The public needs police officers that can actually perform. So if we remove the 1.5 miles, if we remove all these standards, we're getting weak police officers, and weak police officers can't protect the public. And how do we know we have weak police officers? We have police officers constantly getting robbed, constantly getting attacked off duty. And yes, that's my point earlier. What I'm saying, they don't have that aura. People are not perceiving them as a cop. I'm sure if John's walking down the street, or myself, or Marlon, or Sal, or Rob, or Ron, anyone from this network, you would say, you know what? It's not about, like John said earlier, no, it's not about being 6'7", 300 pounds. It's not about being the toughest person. But a person of interest, a perpetrator, doesn't want a challenge, doesn't want a confrontation. They want an easy fix. It's like getting that drug. They want an easy fix, get that money and get out. But they're approaching what they perceive are potential victims. Those potential victims happen to be cops because they can't run a 1.5 miles. They don't look like they can run a 1.5 miles. They don't look like they're armed. They don't look like they're cops. That's big. That's huge, right? I would draw the time. I would say to myself, I want to try to be off duty and appear and not look like a cop. And the reality is, even if I had a beard, even if I did my hair different, many people would think I'm a cop. And it's been tested many times. John, I'm sure you felt it. Marlon, we spoke about it on Friday. You feel that if you're a cop, there's a certain aura about you, if you're a cop's cop, that people say, you know what, just like dogs, they smell it. That's not a person I want to approach. They're aware of their surroundings, and there may be a potential confrontation.
Yeah, they either should think you're a cop or a criminal. They shouldn't be thinking that you're a victim. That's for damn sure, you know? And so to sit there and say that a 1.5 mile run is racist is absolutely ridiculous. If you can't run 1.5 miles, you can't fight. You can't fight. Like, that's just, let's get it what it is. And if you can't fight, you got a big problem. You got a serious problem. If you can't react well to just the smallest amount of cardio possible, how could you perform well when your adrenaline flows? How could you perform well when you had to go up 6 flights of stairs because the elevators were not working, or you can't take the elevator, or a cop needs help and you need to get up there, or anybody needs help, but kid's choking, you need to get there. You can't run 1.5 miles. You're gonna sit there and tell me it's racist? I work with this kid, black kid. He was 6'7". We were talking about the fire department lawsuit where it came out, where it said that the test was racist. The fire department exam was deemed racist by New York State Supreme Court. You know why it was deemed racist? Sheer number alone. Just because the amount of people that passed the test, they were white, it made it racist. Didn't matter that the FDNY goes there. They only recruited in minority neighborhoods. Didn't even go to white neighborhoods. They raised the time of the test from where it was like 6 a.m. to 1:00 in the afternoon. They put the test in minority neighborhoods. They did all of this stuff. They spent 10, and none of it mattered. They were like, no. Sheer number alone, the test is racist. So he thought that it was it was fair to do that. And I was like, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. I was like, so what you're saying is that I'm smarter than you. He's like, you're not smarter than me. I was like, well, that's what you're arguing. You're saying that I'm smarter than you. I'm more physically capable than you. I'm faster than you. I'm stronger than you. And here you are towering over me at 6'7", and you're an athlete, and I'm not. And you're going to sit there and tell me that that's racist? It's racist. You should be offended by this. You should be the one that's offended by this. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing with this 1.5 mile run tablet. You shouldn't be offended by what I'm saying. You should be offended about what they're saying. They're saying you can't run 1.5 miles. They're saying that you're inferior to me. Do you believe that? Because I don't. I don't believe that for 1 second. Now, we talk about weightlifting. You want to talk about men and women? Okay. You want to talk about boxing and men and women? Absolutely. You want to talk about running 1.5 miles? That has nothing to do with anything. I'm sorry. I know plenty of women that could run me under the table. I'll be throwing up and they'll just blow past me, you know, and they run the, you know, and you don't have to be a marathon runner to run 1.5 miles. This isn't not a hard requirement. So I mean, when you look at things like that, and Tom Joyce says it, he fought in a smoker, and he said 90% of his regiment was cardio. I mean, because if any has ever boxed, I mean, it's the most humbling experience ever. Do you know what it's like when you can't breathe and someone's throwing punches at your face? It's not fun. It is not fun. You are like, oh my God, I wish I ran more. I wish I exercised more. And guess what? It's too late. You know, and for us to sit here and pretend like, oh, you're not going to get into any physical confrontations when you're a police officer. No, we could just have this Department of Community Safety. You know, they're sort of like cops. They're sort of like EMS. They're sort of like homeless services. But, you know, they're going to be trained better. They're going to de-escalate better. It's not real. Like, look at this video. Like, look at this cop. This is like, you want to be able to run probably 5 miles a day to deal with this. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? His adrenaline's flowing. They're fighting. Do you know what that feels like? You got all your equipment on. This guy just got knocked in the face. You see this cop's hurt, the one on the right, and they're fighting. Like, this is why you need to be able to run 1.5 mile run, because this is what you're going to be doing every day. You are going to be fighting with individuals. Nobody is that great of a de-escalator. People can't even define what de-escalation is, or how to do it, or how to use it in every situation. De-escalation does not work in every situation. It just doesn't. This is a form of de-escalation that somehow people don't believe. You know, so like, to me, when you're sitting there and saying, I don't need to run 1.5 mile run, okay, no problem. Go find a different job. Accountants don't need to run 1.5 mile run. Cops do.
How about de-escalation? How about that?
Yeah, de-escalation too. That one's good.
I heard that's a good, really important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fail to see what could be in the written and physical exams that overwhelmingly exclude Black and Latino applicants. I'm at a loss for that. Like what exactly that was, And I agree with you, Tabitha, that Madry, Kaz, and Chell couldn't do a mile and a half. So why is it required for? So so should it be required for every cop? And I'm gonna say yes, it should. There should be annual fitness tests. Okay, it's probably an unpopular thing to say, but I think there should be because other departments do have it. And in fact, I think the department should the department should find a way to fit in give guys the time needed to work out and to exercise while on the job. I don't know the logistics of it because again it would be a problem because we're so short staffed right now. But I think if we had the NYPD that we should have, there would be time for that. And you look at our cops and you look at, again, go down south and you look at their cops. Their cops are all in shape. And for the most part, there might be one or two older guys, but for the most part, their cops are in shape, regardless of their age. And you look at us and we have recruits that are coming out the academy and they're overweight already. So what are they going to look like 10 years from now? But again, I think the healthy cops is the last thing New York City wants because New York City would love for you to, work, leave early, don't collect your full pension, and then die young. So they don't have to pay you. So they're not obligated to further pay your pension and your healthcare. So again, when we're talking about lowering standards, how does that really benefit anybody? Because if you're really thinking about it, we should have high standards so that you could live a long life on those pensions. So you could live triple the length that you actually worked for that pension. Okay, so I just don't understand the thinking that that lowering those standards will benefit anybody.
There's a famous quote, and I think this quote is really important, and it really applies to policing. It's by Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi always says, fatigue brings out the coward in all of us. What does that mean? It means that cardiovascular training is so important. In my opinion, cardiovascular training can actually save your life. And Tom Joyce, thank you so much, brother. Find some Unfiltered family. What Tom Joyce is saying here, preparing for a smoker, how much cardiovascular he was doing, that's to protect himself. And I'll tell you why. I trained many years, many sparring matches, competed many times, boxing. And I can tell you this, if someone told me, hey, I'm going to do a police smoker in 2 months from now, and they never had any boxing training, I would probably spend 90% of the time just train their cardiovascular. And that's what's going to protect them. And 10% skill. Why? It's just not long enough to actually worry about their skill, but to protect themselves and to have them prepared to endure a 3 or 4 minute boxing match. They're going to need cardiovascular training, because if your cardiovascular training is not there, your skill is going to fall apart and not going to help you anyway. So it's the same thing for police officers. For police officers to handle situations like that in a train of duress, they need to be tough and they need to have cardiovascular training to be able to handle that. And some people say, well, you need a mile and a half to throw punches. The average fight lasts about 7 seconds. And unless you've ever been in a physical confrontation, an actual fight, then you don't even know what you're talking about. Because if you're throwing punches for 10, 20 seconds, that's exhausting. That's exhausting. If you don't have that cardiovascular training or that mental fortitude, you're going to fall apart. That's what police officers asked. Police officers are required to perform at the highest level for a brief sprint, a brief moment, right? If you see most of these physical confrontations, how long do they last? By the time the person of interest is in cuffs, maybe it's 20 seconds, maybe it's 30 seconds. That's a long period of time when you're throwing punches and your heart is beating so many rates per minute. So cardiovascular is very important. Fatigue brings out the coward in us all, in all of us. What does that mean? When you're tired, exactly what John says. When you're tired, you can't protect yourself. When you're tired, now you have a chance of getting hurt, right? and your pain management is not the same, and your thinking, your clarity when you're tired is not the same also. That's why when your cardiovascular is at a high rate, you think much better. Your anxiety levels are lower. And that's why professional fighters, they train so much, because it helps their mental clarity. And so someone mentioned here earlier about boxing in the gym, in the police academy. I think it's very important. Why? If you remember the boxing training that we had, it's not meant to make you a skilled boxer. It's just not enough time, right? And I'm going to be honest, I boxed a long time. Boxing itself, an actual boxing match, is not really a fight. It's more of a skill. There is some fighting apparatus to it, but it's more of a skill. But when you learn to box in the police academy for short stints, it's just about making sure that you're mentally tough and that you're pressure tested and can prepare yourself for someone that's throwing punches at you. And will you be able to have that mental clarity to stay in that fight? That's what it's really about. It's about making you tougher, not better, right? If you're going to get better and more skilled, these things take years to become a good boxer, to become a skilled boxer. But to become tougher and better, you have to be pressure tested. So it's not about becoming a skilled boxer. It's not, I don't even think it's actual boxing in the gym. It should be just called punching. This is punching class, right? Can you take a punch? Can you be able to funnel that and actually be able to respond, right? And if you've never been punched in the face, well, I can tell you right now, most people think, oh, a police officer de-escalate. If they get punched, stay. If you've never been punched in the face, ever, your body will shut down. Most likely, you will either freeze or you will prepare for flight. So unless you're prepared for that, you're not going to fight back. And some people say, yes, even if you're hit by a little girl, and just think about it. Most people have kids. Sometimes you carry kids. Think about if you have your kid in your hand, your kid pokes you in the eye. That kind of disables you for a moment. So imagine a grown man or a grown woman punching you in the face, and you can't run a mile and a half. You're not mentally prepared. You're in a world of shit.
No, yeah. I mean, look, I'm very skilled on the basketball court, right? But whenever I let my cardio go down, I'm good when we're playing basketball for about the first 10 points. And then after that, my skill level just continuously declines. Because when I let my cardio go down, I can't perform. Even though my body's capable of it, my brain's capable of it, I don't have the wind to keep going, right? So now the guy that has so much less skill than me, but his cardio is fine, and he has a better endurance than I do, he's destroying me on the basketball court. Why? Because I'm like this. Going down on my knees every 2 seconds. I can't keep up with the defense anymore. I can't play my defense. And it's the same thing when you're a police officer, it's honestly and do I think that there needs to be a fitness standards in the NYPD? Absolutely. And why do I think that? Kaz Daughtry, John Schell, Jeffrey Madry. I mean, nobody should look like that on the police department. Nobody. I don't care if you're a 3-star chief. I don't care if you're a 50-year-old man. It should be like, all right, you know what, dude? This isn't for you anymore. You got to go. You can't walk up the stairs. Oh, you can't bend down and tie your shoes. You got to go. Sorry. If you can't tie your shoes, how could you lock somebody up? If you can't tie your shoes, how could you help someone, give someone CPR? If you can't tie your shoes, how could you help a choking baby? You can't do anything. You can't even do a basic human function. You can't tie your shoes.
Ron, you don't get it. When you're a chief, someone else ties your shoes. That's what it is.
That's a good point. But I mean, the reality is, they're slobs. They look like slobs. I'm sorry, they look like slobs. They're not. You're not going to react well. You're just not. So to me, all this is all conjecture. That no, everything's fine. Just we don't have a lot of applicants, and the applicants we got suck. So what we're going to do is lower our standards so that we're able to get to those applicants and we're able to hire them and tell you about the history that we're making, hiring people that traditionally we would have never hired, right? So here she is again. The next day she goes in because I doubled down when I seen her say that. I put out a whole post about that. Here she is again. She says, listen to what she says now. She tries to say that they outpaced attrition by 800 people. Listen up.
The department is positioned to keep moving forward, to keep demanding more of ourselves, and to keep delivering the kind of results that New Yorkers have come to expect and deserve. And we're perfectly positioned to build for the future. 2025 has been the largest hiring year on record, with 4 recruit classes, 3 of them over 1,000 officers. And despite all of the conjecture that we can't keep up, we're actually outpacing attrition by over 800 people this year. That matters because there are people who would have you believe that policing is a profession in retreat. But this is proof that people still want to serve. They still want to wear your uniform, and they still want to believe in the mission of this department and in the noble work that you do. Now, it's December. The city is in holiday mode. People are slowing down.
So she says that, and literally the chief of personnel sitting next to her, Tanya Kinsella is sitting next to her, and nobody believes that, including her. Oh, people are telling you it's a profession in retreat. We outpaced attrition. No, you didn't. No, you did not. You did not outpace attrition. It is absolutely, what she's doing is absolute conjecture. That's the conjecture. And it's a lie, dude. It's a complete lie. I was in Staten Island Mall the other day, and I'm there, and there was a whole article about how retail theft, Staten Island wide, down 40%. So I was like, I wonder what the scam is. Because there is no way leading up to the holiday season that retail theft is down. In the height of broken windows, when crime was its lowest, retail crime rises around the time of Christmas time, holidays. It just happens. Your packages get stolen from. I don't care if you have the best, most competent police department in the world. Packages are going to get stolen from people's door fronts. Stores are going to lose merchandise to retail theft. It's just a known fact. People need money, especially now with a decline economy. So I'm like, I wonder where the scam is. I was like, let me go to the mall. I go to the mall. I see 2 cops. One's doing a paid detail at Sephora. The other one, I don't know what the hell she was doing. She was about 4 foot tall, walking around with an attitude, wasn't looking at anything. I don't know what the hell she was doing. I was like, they're not stopped. These people ain't doing anything. Like, they're not stopped. Maybe the kid at Sephora that's playing on his phone, maybe he could stop something. Maybe. More than likely, it'll be the people inside the store. But they're not looking to stop retail theft. So I'm like, there's no way it's down. So I run into a couple of people. I talked to them. I was like, how's it going? I was like, what's going on? Is it people robbing? Oh, yeah, they're robbing like crazy. I was like, but I just read that retail theft's down 40%. Why is that? So what they're telling the store owners is, this is good. This is good. What they're telling the store owners is they're telling them, listen, don't make a report right away, right? If they got away, don't make a report. Just get the file on record. Let's try to identify these people. And then when it gets to like a certain threshold, right before it becomes a felony, then we'll make one report for all the incidents that this person committed, and then we'll lock them up and we'll look for it. Don't make the report right now. So retail theft's not down 40%. Crime reporting's down 40%.
Yeah, I think this is, she's one of those examples that you could have as many degrees as you want, but you could still be stupid, because I think that comment is just plain idiotic. Okay, you're telling me that if you get 800 new rookies, they're gonna replace the experience of 100 guys who've done like 20 years? It's really just a stupid comment, And again, we should be expecting this by now because it's an agenda, and she's gonna say, and she's gonna continue lying to bolster this agenda. Okay, and that just goes to show you how little she appreciates that experience. Okay, and anybody, you can't tell me that these commands are benefiting from the loss of experience like that. You can't tell me these squads are benefiting from losing guys who've done time and who have how many cases under their belt, and now they're getting a 2-year wonder up in the squad. I mean, that those comments should really infuriate you guys, and especially the unions. It's like, where are you on this? Okay, because she's telling you to your face right now that she doesn't appreciate the experience, and she's telling you right now that it's not a big deal if that guy who had 25 years on, who wanted to stay 5 extra years for 30 walks out the door. That's not a good thing. Okay. If you go down south again, you go to their squads, you see guys with 30 years is like nothing down there. 35 years. Okay. That's a lot of experience. That's a lot of those are guys who've been through the fire already. Okay. And I don't care how good that new rookie is. Okay. He's not going to be able to overnight replace that experience. And that just shows you exactly her mentality.
Yeah, well, it shows you that she's not treating the cops like they're people. I think they dehumanize the cops by saying that, well, we're getting all these people to become cops. So it's just by numbers. So they're not showing any support to the rank and file, whether the rank and file that's there is a year on the job or 20 years on the job. I think it's completely dehumanizing. Oh, you know what? Here's our numbers. We got 800 bodies. And that's really what you say. Just 800 people that are breathing that could put on the uniform. Not valuing the cops that are there, what they endure on a daily basis. The cops that are there that have a year on the job, and the cops that are there that have 20 years on the job that have a different purpose and a different mission. The cops that are there for 20 years, they have the experience that could pass on the torch. And the cops that are there with a year on the job should have the enthusiasm and the youth to do the job, right? Because I would say this is a young man's job, but it's completely dehumanizing. So to me, it makes no difference. It's almost we already moved to AI and robotics because, hey, we just got 800 pulses coming in. We have 800 people that can actually breathe. And she's completely data-driven. She says it all the time, right? So this is just about the data. You're a number. That's what she's saying. So, of course, the agency's in decline. There's no morale. There's no camaraderie. And it comes from the leadership. This is your leadership right here telling you that's just about bodies. You're a body for a body. That's basically what she said. And that's what Marlon's telling you about. You know what? 300 cops retired with 20 years experience. Doesn't matter. We filled them with 300 brand new cops that never even wore a uniform. It's just body for body. She's not. It doesn't matter. If you lost 150 cops that had 22 years on the job or 20 years experience and replaced them with 300 new cops, it's still not the same. You lost experience. Police officers that went through the grind, that learned the job, learned the streets. They know what the streets smell like. They know what they feel like. They know how to talk to people. This is huge. It's not body for body. We can never make that comparison. It's apples and oranges. You can't say we lost a cop for 20 years, but it's okay because we replaced him with someone that's never even been a cop that was a traffic agent for 4 years. How can we even make that comparison? That's just completely devaluing the cops. It dehumanizes them. She's an idiot. She's an idiot, right? Yes, she's extremely intelligent, but she doesn't know police work and understand the culture. You don't need a college degree. You don't need a master's degree or a PhD to be a great cop. You just need to understand life, have common sense, and understand people. That you can't replace someone with 20 years. 20 years did investigations, did casework. I know plenty of people right now, detectives that are leaving the job. And back to what you're saying, you're 100% right. And not only is that happening in Staten Island, that's citywide. I speak to cops often. I speak to a few in the Bronx, a few in Queens. And the theft of catalytic converters is happening widespread, especially in the Bronx. And what they do in the Bronx, if it's happening in a specific neighborhood, they just take one report for the entire incident. They don't document each theft that's happening. So these manipulation of statistics and crime and lack of reporting, it's not just Staten Island, it's citywide. And it's just more cover-up and more cover-up that's going on in this administration. So Jessica Tisch, who's loved by the elites, and so many people talk about how great she is, she's just good at covering up. You know what? All the stuff smells like shit, but she's covering it with roses, and people are buying it. It's just complete crap. It's bullshit.
It's the perception versus reality scam, right? You like I said, people have a hard time at seeing reality for what it is. They let their wants, their desires get in the need of what's actually happening in front of them. So what happened is law enforcement agencies throughout the nation have realized that, and they're like, oh, they don't really see reality anyway, so let's just control their perception. Let's control their narrative. So it's like, no, everything's good in the New York City Police Department. No one's leaving. It's like, wait, everybody's leaving. Everything's good. We're going to do a survey And we're going to talk about the critics. We're going to do a survey that boxes you into a couple of answers that basically says you love the job. And we're going to do that, and we're going to release that, and we're going to do a whole re-engineering program, and crime's down. Don't worry that you don't feel safe when you don't take the train. Don't worry. Don't worry that you don't feel safe when you go to the mall or you go in the parking lot at night. Don't worry that you see people robbing the mall blind while you're standing there. You see people running out of the door with clothes in their hand. Don't pay attention to any of that. Retail thefts actually down 40%. The police department's better than it's ever been. And don't listen to those critics. They're wrong. I'm just going to speak to you from this podium, and you're going to listen to me. And so that's what has been going on. So, like, I look at, I'm disgusted with law enforcement, honestly. And it's not just Jessica Tisch. It's not, because you know what? I expect it from her. Harvard educated, rich her whole life, never suffered. I expect it from her. I expect it from the elites. I do. I expect it from people like her. But when I look across the country and I look at men that grew up like I did, and men that had to cut their own teeth and make their own way, pushing the same bullshit, it's not just the NYPD that's in decline. It's law enforcement's in decline. It's in decline because of law enforcement leadership. And they're doing the same bullshit. And then it's like, oh, you want me to teach you a course on law enforcement leadership? Yeah, let's talk about leadership. I've been going to like these church groups too. And they're real hard for me, dude, because like I can't listen to it, because I'm like, I go back to COVID. Where were you? Where was your leadership skills? What'd you do then? You saw the scam. You saw the lie. You saw everything that was wrong with it, and you did nothing. You said nothing. You pretended like it wasn't happening. You saw DEI come in and infect the entire New York City Police Department and the entirety of our profession as a whole, pushing this nonsense thing. Our main priority is that we get more Asian women. We're going to be such a better police department if we just get Asian women and we have less white men. We'll be such a better agency as a whole. White men are the problem, right? And people push this whole narrative, and yet you hear all these people go out there and talk about leadership every day. They won't address one thing in DEI. Pretend like it's not even happening when their own departments are pushing it. Their own departments are pushing it, and they're like sitting there, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a leadership speaker. And it's like, it's disgusting to listen to, dude. And so that's what this whole game is. It's perception versus reality. Jessica Tisch is a master at it, but she's not that good. You know why? Because there's a podcast out here that all of the people that work for her listen to. And you know what? Just like all of her previous predecessors, including Keechant Sewell, she's unwilling to come on here and debunk the critics, right? You know why I'm willing to sit down with anybody and debate any one of my points? Is because I actually believe in what I'm saying, and I'm willing to have the discussion. You know who's not willing to have the discussion? People that actually don't believe what they're saying. People that are full of shit, that are pushing a narrative, and their narrative will not hold up to just regular questions. Because questions of violence, opinions of violence, and it's horrible. So what we need to do is we need to find any way to shut down this podcast and the individuals on this podcast. So, that's what we need to do. We need to focus. We need to not worry about fighting crime. We need to continue to investigate New York's finest retired Unfiltered podcast, the finest Unfiltered as a whole, the Sal Greco show. We need to go in and we need to investigate these guys because they're a problem. They're the problem. Free speech, problem. United States Constitution, problem. Got to get rid of that quick.
Maul's muted.
Listen, I haven't done that in weeks, okay?
Maul, you just went for like a good 30 seconds.
No, I haven't. When was the last time I did that, chat? Chat, when was the last time I
You sound like Tish right now, bro.
Give me a date.
Yeah. You know what? Maul, you haven't been muted since 2022. 40% better.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think now that we know that Tish was behind the scamdemic, she had a huge role in that. I think it changes things. I think now we know for certain where she's at on a lot of this, including on silencing us. Okay. I think she's 100% for doing that because most of the people who were behind that agenda wanted to silence people anyway. And that the infrastructure they're building is meant to shut you down on social media. Okay, so I mean, with that said, it doesn't surprise me that in that same promotional ceremony, she promoted Victoria Perry, right? And Victoria Perry, you run people that you really shouldn't have in those databases, right? But I think it very well changes my understanding of her, certainly, and where she's at on this. I don't think she's much different from Eric Adams, because I just think she's just smarter about it. She's not going to go brag and say stupid, outright outwardly stupid things. She's in public, she's going to say stupid things like we just said in that speech, but you got to really pay attention to it and understand the meaning behind it. Whereas a guy like Eric Adams will tell you, he'll say stupid shit right out in public and think it's cool. But I mean, when you see the heavy propaganda push going on between the New York Post, her speeches, and the fact that a lot of these news outlets won't even have you guys on, or media outlets won't have you guys on. I can no longer say that all of this is that we can't put two and two together, that it's just it might just be individual. I think there's 100% an agenda going on here to prevent, to silence critics of the job and to silence us. And I think the clues were out there, and it's now that we're fully able to put it all together and understand her thinking on this.
Yeah, and I also think that's why this perception management narrative that they've always done is more prevalent now than ever, because of social media and also because of this network. We have the ear of the police department, and it's not that we're being influential. They want to try to say that we're being influential on the rank and file and distort in their mindset. The rank and file is actually influential on us, because the rank and file is saying exactly what we're saying here. They say it in the locker room. They just can't speak out loud. We're a voice where we have a right to our First Amendment speech, but they don't want us to speak, because the criticism that we're speaking about is the same criticism that's in the locker room. But the criticism in the locker room can't be said out loud. They could actually suppress that. But now that criticism is actually being heard. And with the podcast and a network with almost 70,000 subscribers, we are double or maybe triple, who knows what the actual manpower is, of the police department. So we have a lot of people behind us, and we're behind a lot of people. We've created a whole community here that's actually speaking out about the atrocities of the police department. So the larger and the bigger that we get, and the louder our voices get, the louder Jessica Tisch gets. And people start to see the holes in it, because they're fighting even harder right now. They're behind the eight ball, and they're fighting even harder to change the perception. And along with changing the perception, they're also trying to point fingers at us and saying that we're against the rank and file, to try to change the mindset of the rank and file, that, hey, these guys aren't with you. They're actually anti-cop. And it's far from it. And the reason why they have to do that and try to say that is because the cops are saying exactly what we're saying here. So there's no confidential information being transposed or being transmitted between the cops and the Finance Unfiltered, or back and forth. This is the same observations that they're making from within that we're making from here. You can see it so as prevalent. Jessica Tisch is completely lying to the public. Listen, manpower is important to a point, but how can you say that a 20-year detective that's leaving the police department is being replaced by someone that's never had any police work, that's not even from New York City, that English is not their first language, which I'm not knocking someone for that, right? It's great to have immigrants, but these are things that are important. That these are standards that are going to take much more time to catch up to that 20-year police officer. Now, while manpower is important, quality is more important over quantity. And we lost the quality of this police department. We lost veterans. Of being a veteran and having experience, it's a quality fact that we've lost. Having police officers that are from New York City, that understand the culture and understand the police department, we lost that. Can you get those things back number by number? They want you to believe that it's okay. You know what? Rhetorically speaking, some guy, Mike, left with 20 years on the job, who's a detective, We get someone brand new that's never had any experience with police work. How can we even compare? How can that be on the same playing field? It just doesn't make sense. And of course, they just keep lying to the public. But young police officers, they're bright-eyed, they want to do their job, they're not thinking about the politics. And that's the problem with this network also, is because we've reminded them of the situation that they're in, making them understand and see clearly. And that's the difference. We've educated the rank and file. And the rank and file, unfortunately, they can't be a voice. We are a voice for them. Who should be the voice? The unions. But unfortunately, the unions are not a voice for them because the unions have their own self-image and self-amenities to promote. And that's a problem. So we have become a voice for them. So when she says we're speaking to those critics and we're speaking to the things that you've heard, they're speaking directly to this network. They're speaking to our friends and listeners that are tired of it, tired of what you're saying because your eyes are open and your mouth is being heard.
So the other thing I thought was hysterical is so TransAlt. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but basically they want bike lanes everywhere. They want to shut down New York City. The biggest problem in New York City is cops having parking plaques, right? So they're going to have a big voice in this administration, and a lot of cops are concerned that they're going to have to now figure out how to pay for parking or where they're going to park if in fact their parking plaques are removed. So, we saw what happened with the body camera bill, and we saw what the PBA did, which was absolutely nothing. They never got on messaging. They never pushed back. And then right when it was very evident that this bill is going to pass and it's just going to get rammed down the throats where the CCRB is going to get direct access to NYPD body cameras, then they run out and they take out an ad in City and State. And then City and State, they tweeted out that sponsored ad and they got about 100 views on it. So, your dues are going to really effective things, So it really helped in having that legislation not pass, right? So yeah, so what I said is I was responding to TransAlt when they start talking about parking plaques and cops using, these things to evade camera tolls and all this stuff. So I was responding to them and I said, "Oh, don't worry." I retweeted them. I said, "Don't worry about your parking plaques. Right before you have to hand them in, the PBA and your unions, they'll take an ad out in City and State and tell you how much they're fighting for you, and they'll do an X post about that." So John Shell got pretty upset. Well, excuse me, I don't know who this person is. I don't know. I don't know who it is. It's some guy named Salvatore Grecci. He responded. He's kind of, anytime there's a comment from John Shell or we respond to him, this guy Salvatore Grecci, not related to Salvatore Greco, he responds. So he responds to what I wrote. He responds and he said, "It's all good, Johnny boy." This is Salvatore Grecci again. "I will have a plaque for life. I still have my loyalty at 1PP. I'm not worried. I will be able to park outside my favorite establishment." So in essence, what this person's saying is, and I believe that this person was the NYPD chief of department at one point, because that's how they're pretending to be. So what they're saying is that they don't care if cops get their plaques taken away because, hey, I'll have my parking plaque for life. I get to illegally park outside of my favorite watering hole right before I get in my car and drive drunk home every night. That's what they're telling you. That's what that person's saying. I mean, so I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that cops are going to have parking plaques, or do you think this administration is going to seek to take those away? Because obviously this person that's claiming to have these One Police Plaza connections doesn't care because he's always going to have his plaque even in retirement.
Yeah, they're going to remove the parking plaques. And I'm going to tell you how they're going to do it too. Transportation Alternatives is another globalist group. That's what they're doing is they're really pushing for the smart city agenda. And the smart city agenda is you're going to have tracking equipment and cameras peppered all over the city. And they'll be able to pick up your vehicle as soon as you pull out your driveway and you drive to Manhattan and park. Okay. And we're going to be able to we can already do most of that now. In fact, I've already told you guys who are watching, I can track your vehicle from Long Island all the way down to Florida. All I need to do is call the fusion centers. I need a case number, which is nothing. I got a case number for you for anything. Okay, and I'm telling you that from being in Intel, I can make a case number for anything right now. Okay, and I send it to the Fusion Center, and I'll get all your LPR data from your house all the way down the East Coast. Okay, so that agenda, okay, is how they're gonna get rid of your parking plaques, because if you have AI managing a database and it knows your vehicle is registered to officer so and so, that's what you use to commute, they don't need a parking plaque, because the traffic agent is already going to know who you are by just reading your plates. Okay. In fact, we don't even need the traffic agents, because the camera that's going to be on the parking sign is going, or the parking meter is going to tell you, is going to be able to tell which car is a official vehicle, or which car has an authorized parking plaque. Again, it's all part of the same agenda. And when you have people like, that's obviously John Shell, okay? That buffoon isn't smart enough to even change his language when he's making a tweet, you know? So he's tweeting in the same language and mentioning the same stuff that he did under his regular account, okay? And what he's telling you by saying that is that I don't care. We don't care about you. We don't care about your concerns. We don't, as an MOS, we don't care about the public's concerns that they're going to be living in a surveillance state. Okay, we don't care, because I'm getting my crumbs, so it's all good. Okay, and again, Tish is showing you that she don't care either, because you know someone just texted me that she promoted Kenneth Perez to chief, and Kenneth Perez was CEO of Equity and Inclusion. Okay, and she also promoted Mary King to chief, and she was CEO of Reasonable Accommodation Unit. So if you remember in the scamdemic, and you put in an accommodation, and you were getting a runaround, and maybe you managed to save your job because you found a way to delay it up until they dropped the mandate, or somehow your lawyer managed to get you back on the job, then you know the problems that came from those units. And you know, we talk about this, how so many cops were pushed out this job because of these units. And here you see her rewarding them, okay? Rewarding them. What it's telling you is they don't care about you. They don't care. They don't care about experience. They don't care. They just need any warm body to get in the academy. And again, this is all part of the same elitist agenda. It's one and the same.
Well, you think Jessica Tish has to worry about putting a plaque in a window? Does she have to worry about? No, she gets driven to work. To the upper echelon, the first deputy commissioner and these chiefs, do they have to worry about a plaque? No, they have an unmarked car. So again, this goes back to a tiered system, and the tiered system where the rank and file, especially general population, is treated like pure shit. And no one cares about them. The only one cares about them is themselves, their friends, their family, retired cops, or friends and listeners on this network right here. John Shell or Salvatore Grecci. I mean, I have to laugh. It's hysterical when John Shell, he must be in such a stupor that he just responds from his fake account. It's hysterical. There's no doubt it's John Shell on that fake account. He's a complete moron. He can't even remember because he's got so many in him. Again, that's why I've been trying to help him out. You know, he has to remember which ankle is actually he has to hobble on after having a couple in him. He's a complete loser, and he should be completely irrelevant. He was irrelevant before, and he's irrelevant now. He was just there because he was the token white guy, the old pale male stale face with a triple fat neck. He's a complete loser, and he has to hide from a fake account. And he's showing you right now that his fake account shows who he really is. He doesn't care about the cops. He wants to brag about having a plaque. He wants to talk about a cop being terminated. Listen, if you don't like Sal Greco or like this network, but Sal Greco is a reflection of the other cops. So when you make fun of Sal Greco being wrongfully terminated, you're also making fun of any cop that's ever been wrongfully terminated, including Daniel Pantaleo and many others. So they don't care. Jessica Tish doesn't care about a parking plaque. And the problem is parking plaques have never been a right. The police department has never turned this into a right. It's an administrative privilege. and they're treating it in that way. And that's why these organizations, these groups have been able to fight back. And there's been no pushback by the police department and the union. They have not come up with any solution. These police officers have to come in snow. They have to come in extreme heat. They have to come to work and battle through traffic and work 24 hours a day because of overtime and work their days off. They need that plaque, but the police department has to support them and say, listen, we need to come up with solutions and have better infrastructure. These police departments were built at a different time. These police department, the infrastructure of the police department is not built. They don't have parking garages. They don't have the accommodations for police officers. And you could say, well, people in other jobs don't have plaques. Well, you know what? Become a police officer then. A police officer, exactly what John said earlier, is the job. It is a separation from being a law enforcement officer or a regular job in New York City, because we depend on police officers to keep us safe, and they're working around the clock. And also they have a danger factor. They don't need to be riding on a train at night when there's people there that already know them and identify them. Police officers need to be mobile and they need to be in a car, but we don't have the infrastructure and they haven't come up with any solutions and they haven't pushed back. So will cops lose their plaques? Unfortunately, there's no doubt about it. I do believe they'll lose their plaques, and there's no pushback at all. Where are the unions? Are they going to create an Uber, not just for police officers that are under the weather? Are they going to create an Uber system where police officers will have travel to and from work at any time? I highly doubt it.
I unfortunately agree. Shout out to Chief Pat Jordan. We haven't seen you in a long time. LA County Sheriffs. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Yeah, it's been too long, but we'll get together soon. We got to talk. So, and then this too. I don't know if you guys remember this. 2 NYPD detectives on leave in connection with crypto torture case. So 2 detectives working closely with the Eric Adams administration were put on modified duty for their connection with dropping off the victim who was kidnapped and tortured and held against his will in the crypto case. So I've been going through the IAB case that we got back, and guess what? One of the detectives, guess what? They were running myself and Eric Dim's name in New York Police Department databases. Strange? I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty strange. Like, why would these people who are connected to Eric Adams and connected to the upper echelon of the job, who have been implicated in some type of role with this torture where they were actually had their guns and their shields removed, why the hell would one of them running our names in the department computer database? And what do you think should happen to all of the people that ran our names in department computer databases, including John Shell?
Yeah, sorry about that. I think, if we had a fair department, they would get the discipline that every other MOS would for doing that. But we know we're not living in a fair department, and again, it's part of the same agenda, and these people at the top don't like us. So nothing is going to happen to him, and as we've seen so far, nothing has happened to him. And if anything, I think he's already a first grader, so I don't think there's any more room for promotion on there. But if he was a second grader, he sure would have been up for promotion, because again, you don't get punished in this administration. You don't get punished for wrongdoing. You get punished for not being loyal, and you get punished when they need a fall guy. You don't get punished for when you do wrongdoing and it's wrongdoing in favor of the administration and the agenda. That gets you a promotion.
What's unfortunate? There are so many cops, active and retired, are so institutionalized that at this point that have justified these actions, right? Because department computer databases within the NYPD are meant for actual police work. So any other form is complete misuse. But unfortunately, there are active retired cops, not the majority, but that have justified this. Just as when myself and John started this podcast, I've got numerous calls that, hey, what are you going to do when they come after you? What are you going to do when they try to shut down your pension? You know they're going to try to shut it down. And I said, maybe you guys should, maybe you don't want to speak out. So and people have justified this, and they actually anticipate this. No one's surprised by this. Everyone anticipated this because John and I heard this for a long time. Aren't you scared that they're going to come after your pension? Because numerous guests that we have invited or actually want to come on this podcast, some have actually shied away and said they were scared to come on in retirement because afraid that the police department would target them. So think about that, justify that. And there are some people saying, I haven't heard them, but I'm sure I would envision and assume there are some people saying, well, I see, I told you so. They're going to come after you. Well, that's not the way. I tell you right now, I'd rather lose my pension. I'd rather die than give up this fight. You're damn right. I'm not giving up my First Amendment speech. Our forefathers didn't give up our First Amendment speech. I didn't put on my uniform, be a Marine, and fight in Iraq to give up. So I'm not laying down now. And if they took my pension, I'll find another way to make money, and I'll get it back, and they're going to owe me a lot more money than that. But we can't be scared and can't shy away. We can't do that. It has to be some of us that are willing to stand up. And the bottom line is, this is not police department use. This is improper use. This is a complete misuse. Keep in mind, John, myself, Marlon, Sal, Rob, and Ron, we're not active members of the police department anymore. Yes, we're retired, but we are everyday citizens. We get the same rights as we're protected citizens. We have a right to our First Amendment speech. We're no longer working for the police department. But at the same time, I tell you what, I'm flattered. I'm flattered that they have to try to look into John's information, look into my information. I didn't realize how powerful when you speak the truth is, when you talk about the atrocities of the police department. Because if what we were saying wasn't true, why would you care? Why do you have to peruse our information? Why does some detective in candid assessment have to look up my educational background in 2024 when I retired in 2022, 2 years later? And ordered by who? Who knows? Because it's not even in the casework. Doesn't say who ordered it, for what purpose, and they did it twice. A DOS check. Why? Why did John Shell have to peruse John's information? Why was he looking up John's info? It doesn't say why, what purpose, how long was he looking at? Why do you need this information? What purpose? But this is another indication that Internal Affairs is the Selective Affairs Bureau because they have the information. No one was penalized for it. No one was actually held accountable. Why? Because Internal Affairs has proved, and thank you so much, you proved our point. I'm not even mad about this. I actually appreciate it. You proved our point that, yes, you would come after us for speaking out and just talking about what's going on with the police department. You proved that if we support the rank and file, you'll come after us because you don't support the rank and file. You prove that Internal Affairs cannot police themselves, that they are the henchmen for the upper echelon. So everything we're saying is actually proof. So I want to thank you. I appreciate the police department. Thank you for a shoddy shit investigation. Internal Affairs, you suck. Richard Galvez, the first sergeant on this case, you suck too. And so does Rutherford, Travis, you suck too. Every one of them. So you have to lay down at night and know that you did a shoddy investigation and you ordered to. I don't have to sleep like that at night. I sleep just fine. How do you sleep? Let them come take my money. I don't care. I got my dignity. If that's all you care about, that's all John Shell cares about is his dollar bill, you won't live that long, my brother. That's a sad life.
So, yeah. So I think what's important to point out about this, though, and it's like it kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit is, so, obviously Shell's top team, the captain who's now since promoted, and all his lieutenants and all their guys, including their legal team advisor, came on our social media basically telling us that they ran our names, telling us that they had meetings with Shell and Kaz, and basically trying to intimidate us into silence, right? Like paid goons over the internet, threatening to release records that were lies that they don't even have, but putting out there things into the sphere that you could only know through running department computers. Now, we had left it alone. And I had spoke to the captain off to the side, and I'm like, dude, you're an executive in the New York City Police Department. Like, what are you doing? You're opening up all these idiot rookies, and your two lieutenants are scumbags, but you're opening up all your rookies to really, this is all. If I was mad about it and I said something about it, you'd have a big problem. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're failing to supervise. And we kind of backed off of it. And then that same week, I start getting threats from a known criminal that happens to be good friends with Eric Adams and the New York City Police Commissioner. I don't know him. I don't know why he's threatening me. I don't know what that had to do. Fat Joe's talking shit. I'm like, what are these dudes from what are these skells from the Bronx care about me for? So I'm like, oh, wow, I know. We were making fun of Ed Caban at the time. We were talking about how the New York City Police Department sucks. And now all of a sudden his friend is threatening me. And this group of paid goons are also threatening us. And then our kids start getting threatened from a handle that we know as an NYPD cop, actually an NYPD sergeant. So then we're like, you know what? Screw them. We're going to call IAB. But when we called IAB, I didn't just say Shell, Kaz. I also put another friend of the known criminal in there, Miguel Iglesias, who was in charge of the New York City NYPD Police Department Internal Affairs Bureau. He was removed by Jessica Tisch for failure to properly report and investigate corruption. So I put Miguel Iglesias in that. When we were originally contacted by IAB's Group 1, they had said, I specifically asked, I said, I don't want Miguel Iglesias or anyone but you and your inspector, who at the time, who was also removed from Internal Affairs Bureau, Inspector Joseph Perfetta. I don't want anyone else but you looking at this. I don't want Iglesias. I have information that he hangs out at that location where this known criminal is threatening us. And we were assured that nobody was going to see this case and nobody had hung out at this known criminal's establishment, which in fact turned out to not be true because they had a holiday party and the pictures got released and Sal Greco had put out a post showing the chief of internal affairs at the location with this person who threatened us. So he should have been removed from the investigation. So, I don't know if you guys know, but usually the chief of the Internal Affairs Bureau in the NYPD doesn't investigate anything. So when we had dropped that log, we had put numerous criminal association charges on everyone, and it was never investigated, including Miguel Iglesias, John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, Ed Caban. Never investigated criminal association. Mind you, they fired Sal Greco for criminally associating based upon an anonymous log from a disgruntled police officer. They fired Sal Greco for criminal association, but when we're showing them facts, that not only is there a criminal scam happening here and police resources are being misused, and they're actually being coordinated with known criminals, and the entire upper echelon of the job is criminally associating, they just didn't see that or hear that, and they just kind of didn't investigate it. So it comes out in the files that John Shell had made an inquiry on my name. And this is the part that really bothers me. So the investigation disclosed that on 8/28/2023, now I retired, my last official day in the New York City Police Department was February 24th, 2022. I had started the podcast in August of 2022. And then I think Eric had joined about in November of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I don't, October, November, like right around there. So he joins around then. So we had already got a lot of attention on this podcast. I had already been doing major media hits for a while at this point. And so John Shell was fully aware that I was retired at that point. And I think everyone in the New York City Police Department, including the police commissioner, was fully aware, right? So Chief Shell had made a CPR inquiry on me, meaning he got to know where my address is, my phone number, all this stuff, right? Why? Why did he need to know all that stuff? I'm fully retired. He's well aware of it. After conferral with Inspector Perfetta, Chief Shell was informally interviewed by Chief Iglesias. How is the chief of IAB investigating this when he's a subject of part of the investigation? Why is he even privy to knowing anything about the allegations that we made? So he was informally interviewed, and he stated he conducted a CPR inquiry on John Macari in order to determine his duty status and obtain additional information regarding department pedigree, such information as his previous commands. It was determined that the inquiries made were lawful and proper. So he was using this to go out online and to basically shit all over those commands and attempt to shit all over my career, which, again, not that it matters, but I did a lot more work than Chief John Schell, and I was a lot more competent and a lot more well-respected and liked, and I made a lot more arrests than Chief John Schell. So that's not lawful and proper to look that up. The same way it wasn't lawful and proper when people looked up Kaz Daughtry or his or whoever else at Caban's record, and they were transferred and it got charges and got big hits for it. So it wasn't just as proper. This is even worse, though, because you're actually targeting a member of the public and you're misusing police resources. So what gets even crazier is that there's, when you go further into the IAB case, there's a portion where Eric's educational records are being looked at. And so everyone's like, why is that? Why is that significant? Why is that significant that Eric's educational records are being 2 years? His educational records were being ran 2 years after retirement. So now in 2024, Eric Dim's educational records get checked. In 2024, John McCarry's educational records get checked. Why is that significant? Why would somebody go backwards and look at your now the person that ran it says they were ordered to do so, but it never puts out on the log who ordered them, right? Intentional.
And why?
And why they ran it, right? So why would you go back and look at a retired member's educational records? And I'll tell you why. You would go back because you would be looking to decertify these people. Corey Pegues is on here. He was on here, make some funny comments. But if you remember, after Corey wrote his book, the NYPD was trying to go backwards and decertify Corey Pegues and strip him of his pension. They were saying, oh, it doesn't matter that he did 20 years in service. He did this. He lied on his application. They were looking at our educational records to see if they could find a mishap to attempt to decertify us and remove our pensions and remove our health care. Now, remind you, I have children. Eric has children. Eric was going through a horrible time. They were looking to take Eric's health care away from his kids, my health care away from my kids, my pension away from my kids, because we did and exercised our God-given right to free speech. The right that is upheld in the United States Constitution and the founding of this country. The right that these fat slob losers upheld an oath and swore before God to defend. And that's what they did. They weaponized it because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle criticism, and they can't handle people that aren't going to be subservient to them or aren't afraid to them. So they look to try to destroy us. That's what they did. On top of sending their criminal friends, on top of sending their little paid, I don't even want to call them paid goons, because I like, they're not goons. They're just morons. Absolute morons that follow. They all got rewarded for it. They all got substantiated for the acts that they did online towards all of us. Every single person, they got substantiated, not for the criminal association, because we just wiped the slate clean for all the executives in the NYPD. But all the other people, they all got substantiated. And you know what happened to them? Miraculously, the Department Advocate Office has just dropped the whole case, even though they were substantiated. So there was a clear misuse and many crimes committed towards myself and Eric and this entire network and this podcast. And they were doing it to harm us financially, emotionally, as well as physically.
Yeah. I think it goes back to not doing the things they should do to fix the job, again, because that means giving up their crumbs. And that system, they know the system benefits them, and they know a lot of what they're doing is illegal, if not completely, if not misconduct or completely inappropriate for them to be doing.
Totally illegal, by the way. Felony crimes. I'm not. It's not even a question of what they did. Felony crimes.
No, not that. But I'm saying the system that benefits them, what they're doing to run cover for that system is breaking the law. And what I think is going to happen is they're going to break the law even further in order to cover up what they did. And you see that if you had fixed these problems from the get-go, now you wouldn't have to break the law in order to try and run cover for what you did. But instead, you don't want to fix the problem. You want to kick the can down the road, and now they're breaking the law to hide that fact. And I think a lot of you who are watching this, including the news media, because again, we know you're all watching this, okay? You reporters out there, okay? We appreciate a lot of the work that you guys have done, but now you need to start thinking to yourself, if they ran John and Eric's name for this, what are they doing for you, okay? If you think they're not trying to find ways to get you to and to shut you down, okay, you're crazy, because I suspect they did this for John and Eric and to all of those former MOS who are now speaking out about what happened. I think this is part of the playbook that they've been doing for a long time. It's just gotten even more blatant now because a lot of a lot of things are coming to a head, and you've got an administration of people with even less more morals and integrity than even the prior ones, and I think again, if you were to look at all those people who ran John and Eric's names, I think we can connect all the dots back to Chell, Kaz, Banks, Adams. It's all the same people, because it's this was coming straight from the top, and they don't want people criticizing and pointing out the problems with the job.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Not only is this a cover-up on the inside of the police department, but this is a criminal act. This is a federal crime to access John's information and my information. We are private citizens trying to suppress our First Amendment speech. They didn't just break a rule or break a policy. They broke the law. They broke the law to try to silence us. And how are they going to cover up for that law? Is to break more laws, because they got themselves so deep and they're sinking in this hole. They have to continuously do it. And that's what they're doing as we speak. So John and I will not back down. I mean, they could try to take our pensions. They could try to take our money. They could try to suppress our speech. They could come after us on social media. They could try to come after us physically. But guess what? We'll still be standing here. So we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We'll still be a voice for the police department. And I'm actually flattered by this. I'm flattered because everything that we've been saying for over 3 years has been exposed through this casework. We've seen shoddy casework. It's a complete insult to every detective in the NYPD. If John and I ever have an opportunity to actually show you the casework, well, one day we will, and you actually see what shoddy type of police work was done by Internal Affairs, there's only two ways to look at it. So if any reporter you're watching this, you have to ask yourself, one, is it inadequacy? Or two, it's intentional. Or is it both? And exactly that. John and I understand the silver linings of the police department. We work for the police department almost 20 years, each of us. So what are they going to do to a private citizen that doesn't understand those silver linings? Not only that, I understand how casework is implemented. I was a special operations lieutenant, but John was actually in internal affairs. So John actually understands the casework that they're doing from within. So if they could do this to two retired lieutenants, what will they do to the average citizen? What will they do to a reporter that actually goes against the grain of the police department? You'll be a complete target. Government cannot come after you for actually utilizing your First Amendment speech. This is not breaking the rule. This is not I told you so moment that John and Eric shouldn't have spoke about the police department, shouldn't have been critical, shouldn't have formed a network. No. We are private citizens. We have a right to our First Amendment speech, and we have to continue and support that. And our friends and listeners here, I want to thank you for all the engagement, because you've been supporting us, allowing us to grow. And shame on the police department. But again, this exposes internal affairs as a selective affairs bureau in the police department, and how there is a tiered system, and how the upper echelon utilizes internal affairs and utilize that confidential information to protect the public. How could Chief or former Chief Miguel Iglesias have such confidential information to have such a privy conversation with John Shell as the chief of internal affairs? He shouldn't even have that information. And in addition, he was a subject in that case. He's a subject. So to me, I actually appreciate this. This is just more exposure. And it shows that internal affairs needs to be a separate entity. It can't be trusted. It's the henchmen for the upper echelon, and they impose discipline only on the general population to just keep up appearances. Because really what this is about is allowing the upper echelon to continue enjoy the amenities and the fruits of the police department. And unfortunately, I think this time it backfired. I can't believe that we actually got this information on a FOIA request. So I do appreciate that. I want to thank those detectives for the shoddy police work, because you've only exposed everything that we've said is actually spot on and accurate. So I don't even take it personal. I'm laughing. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but they did in fact commit a crime. So if you're watching this, you're a reporter, you actually want to dive into it. People were afraid to touch this, but you should be aware and paranoid at this point, because if you're a reporter from the city or the Gothamist and you actually speak about atrocities in the police department, you could find yourself in the same shoes that we are, and they're checking your information, and they're looking at your plates, and they're looking at your educational background, and they're trying to find out where you live. And then they have some idiot sergeant sending threats to your family, and then he doesn't get arrested for it. It's quite interesting. How did a sergeant not get arrested for it? There wasn't even a criminal investigation, an administrative investigation. Think about that. This is a complete cover-up. It smells like it. It looks like it. It is.
Well, I don't know, bro. I take it very personally, and I'm going to make it very personal for everybody on it. I'm going to make it very, very personal. Like, this isn't going away anytime soon. This is just starting. Like, I'm just letting everybody know on here. So if you handle the case, if you brushed over the fact that someone threatened our kids, that you investigated them for aggravated harassment. So they investigated the sergeant who was making these inflammatory threats. He lies in the GO. He basically comes out in the GO and he lies and he says, oh, I was just traveling to Disneyland. So that's why he had sent in a picture of AK-47, almost really where my house was. That's why he drew that map. Is Professor Juju, you on here? Is that why your buddy did that? Is that why he did that? So they investigate him administratively for aggravated harassment. So let me just learn Jessica Tisch and the Internal Affairs Bureau a little something here. You don't investigate administratively crimes. When you investigate crimes, this isn't a misconduct case, which was also the entire case was mislabeled as a misconduct case. It was actually a criminal corruption case. And it was a C case. It should have been Jessica. And so when the Internal Affairs Bureau gets a crime, an allegation of a crime, they're required, because they're cops too, their handcuffs work. They don't have to just lock up cops. They could lock up bad guys too. They could do that. They used to do that. So, I know a lot of them don't have a lot of collars, and SDS in Internal Affairs stands for Slight Sound Syndrome, not a Sergeant Detective Squad. I understand that that's what it is. But what you need to do is you need to investigate the crime of aggravated harassment for criminally. So how you would do that is you would do a DA conferral, meaning you would take the allegations that were made and then you would investigate it. And as per your investigation, you would go to the district attorney concerned and you would do a conferral with the district attorney, and the district attorney would have told you to lock the cop up, not do some bullshit GO-15 that you didn't even ask him the right questions because the sergeant you had in charge of it was a fucking moron. Not do that. What you would do is you would lock him up and then you would read him his rights. And then if he wants to talk, he could do that. Right. But they didn't do that. They just disregarded all that. And when we dropped the internal affairs log, what I did is I took each subject and I put all the allegations concerned and with a little blurb about why they were getting the allegation, because that's part of what I did in the Internal Affairs Bureau was I did assessments. And so I would overlook every log that came in every day. I would read through them. And before it went to the chief to sign off, I would make changes to every single one and say, all right, this needs this, or this requires further investigation, or this is the allegation concerned, and this is who's going to investigate it, and this is how they're going to investigate it. So that's part of what I did in the Internal Affairs Bureau. So what I did was when we sent over that log, what they did is they just went, oh, no, we don't see any of that. And what they decided to do was just start to investigate myself, Eric, and 3 schmuck cops who I don't even know. Neither does Eric, neither does Marlon. Sal doesn't know them. And what they started to do is investigate myself, Eric, for getting confidential information from 3 cops we never spoke to, not through anonymous handles, not through anything. We've never spoke to these people ever. And they put months and months of investigation into these cops who don't even know us and never contacted us, never had anything to do with any of it. They ultimately, found them not guilty of nothing. But that was the only work they actually did, was trying to investigate me and Eric. So when our children were threatened and the upper echelon came after us, what IAB did and the Internal Affairs Bureau did is begin to investigate us. And while the upper echelon was trying to remove our pension, while they were sending their gay cokehead friends to try to scare us, and while they were sending their paid little stupid goons to try to scare us. So that's what basically happened in a nutshell. And absolutely, a lot of reporters are like, how could I get that info? Grow a pair of balls, FOIA request if your name was ever run, and do it. You're going to wait 6 months for it, but that's what you're going to do, because everything you said, you came after us for all the shit we were saying, and everything that we were saying 2 years ago is fact. It's all coming out now. It's all fact right now. And yeah, absolutely. We got really a national hero as part of the Finest Unfiltered, Pete Forcelli, and he is whistleblower for the Fast and Furious operation, right? And he knows what it's like to be targeted by the government, and he knows what it's like to try to have his life destroyed by the government. He actually fought and he won, and people should know about Pete's story. Everybody should know. Pete Forcelli should be a household name. Everybody should buy his book as well. And that's exactly what happened here. Is we were just on the podcast talking shit, giving our opinions, and we were being investigated for giving our opinions about things that were already in the news. And they just picked 3 cops to go after and investigated for months, and then completely ignored all the criminal activity from the upper echelon, from that sergeant, and they didn't even improperly investigate any of it, not one iota of it. And so when I hear that Jessica Tisch cleaned up the Internal Affairs Bureau, when I hear that she cleaned up the corruption in the New York City Police Department, I throw up in my mouth, because it's not even anywhere accurate. Because when she came in, we got a different investigator. St. Johns County Sheriff was sent to my home on a Saturday night without my knowledge, telling them that I'm in trouble and I need help, right? God only knows that is swatting people. That's what happened. I got swatted under her. I filed a complaint about that sergeant. That's nowhere in that case. None of those allegations are in there. I don't know for a fact. I don't know anything what happened with that. We're going to find all that out, because that's all going to come on Discovery. And I'm looking forward to seeing every single one of you in Manhattan Supreme Court. And I'm looking at every single one of you sitting on the stand. And I'm looking for you have to be in the same room as me and to see my face. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I think, I mean, there's no consequences for the shoddy casework in this. There's no consequences for that phone call that sergeant made. There's no consequences. Should we think that the fact that there's been all these problematic issues in the case, should we all think that that's just coincidence now? Because I'm telling you, when this all goes through, I don't see how. I really don't see how that a logical person can put two and two together and think that there was something going on here. Okay, there's just too much questions here, and too many of it unanswered. And again, we should all be thinking about this, about the consequences of this, and what does it mean if the police department is willing to go after a retired MOS? What You know, if I'm the public, I'm uncomfortable with this, and you know, this is if they feel comfortable in doing this to its own, then what is it going to do to you know, the public?
So the reason why I say I don't take it personal doesn't mean I'm not going to fight back. And we are fighting back. I don't take it personal because, in my opinion, if it wasn't John and Eric, it was two other names, two other former NYPD lieutenants or whatever rank, decided to have a network that was unfiltered, they would be targeted too. What this proves is that your First Amendment speech will be targeted by the NYPD. If you're critical of the NYPD, and especially with this administration, critical of the upper echelon, and expose the inadequacy, expose that there is a three-tiered system, expose the sexual deviancy that's going on with all these allegations. If you expose all these atrocities, they will come after you. And as John said, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it when it's time for discovery. I'm looking forward to all the members that are part of this case on the stand and have to look me right in the face, because I'm going to get myself the best hotel room in Times Square. I'll fly in because I haven't been there. Or maybe I'll take my RV and park it right in front of the courthouse. That would be fun. I'll take my RV, put it right in front of the courthouse, and give out some really good food instead of like these union canteens where they give you out, you know, protein bars and water. Maybe I'll give out some stuff in my RV, but I'm looking forward to it, to be there when they have to look me in the face and explain why they were checking our names, why they were trying to initiate fights with us on social media for giving our First Amendment speech. Look me right in the face. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to it. I want to know why some detective ran our information 2 years after we retired, and why doesn't the case say who orders you to do it and why? That's shoddy police work. Where are the case notes? Where are the conversations of who orders you to do it and what legitimate purpose? And it also proves, when we talk about these vaccines, how no one pushes back. Why is some detective checking this information? Why are you not asking? Why are you saying, why this information not put in the casework? These guys are retired for 2 years. And if you just say, oh, what am I supposed to do? That's my job. Well, guess what? Maybe that'll be you one day if you decide to have a podcast and a network and be critical about the police department, or just support the rank and file. You'll find your name on some case notes, and you'll find your information being checked. So we're not going away anytime. And as John said, and I agree, I look forward to, you know, a case playing out at Manhattan Supreme Court or federal court in Manhattan. I look forward to going to 500 Pearl Street. I want to know why you checked all this information. I want to protect my First Amendment speech. I want to protect John's, his entire network, and everyone that's retired. And you have the right to speak up. You have the right to have a voice, because the rank and file sure damn hell needs a voice, because they're not getting it from the unions. But either way, if they could do this to their own, think about that. We wore the same uniform, same uniforms. We walked the same streets. And John and I did far more than the people that are talking shit to us. Far more. And yet they came after us for giving our First Amendment speech. The only thing in this I find personal is that someone threatened our kids, because that damn well crosses the line. You threatened our kids, and that crosses the line. And the fact that that sergeant wasn't held accountable and never arrested, to me, I look forward to Manhattan Supreme Court. So if that sergeant right now, you should be worried. Not from me and not from John. I'm not in New York, and neither is John. But if you have some key information, I want to know why you weren't arrested. The fact that you weren't arrested, to me, means you must have some real vital information. So to that sergeant that threatened our families, I'd be worried that maybe the police department might come after you. Because what do you know? Why weren't you arrested? Why didn't they look into it? What do you know? Maybe they might come after you because they don't want you to speak at this court case. So if I was that sergeant, I would beware and I'd be careful. Not from us, but from your own. Just like they came after us, they might come after you.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm not going to physically do anything to anybody, you know, so there's nothing to be worried about. And I know everybody's concerned about where I am. I'm in New York. You tape the windows when you're painting. So in case you guys don't know, you know, what the hell's going on? I know everybody's very concerned. Like, that's what happened, dude. You don't want to paint around, right? Bob the Builder, uses tape, all right?
I like to use an angle brush.
Yeah. I use tape. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think whatever. Like it is what it is. It's just infuriating, dude. The whole thing's infuriating, the whole way it's handled, and it's just a disgrace on the entire department. It really is. And so, and again, like I said, when they're running this perception management campaign, everything's fine. We're at historic lows in crime, but yet there's crime everywhere. We're doing great. We're at historic highs in hiring, and they're not talking about all the experienced people they're losing, and even the inexperienced people that they're losing, and they're trying this whole perception management campaign. It's disgusting. It's literally like watching somebody tell you how great their son is that's addicted to heroin, that's using heroin 12 times a day, and is lying about everything. They're not working, they're not in school, they're a drug addict, they're defiling themselves, and they're on the way down the toilet. And that's kind of what I see from the New York City Police Department and from law enforcement as a whole. When I look nationwide and I look at all these appointed police chiefs, and they're like, no, everything's great. Everything's good. My department's doing great. And no, it's like, no, your department's a disheveled mess. Your department is failing. It's in a significant decline, and you're going to be replaced by these another entity. Like that's what's coming in New York City. That's what's coming, and we have no one to blame but our own. So I think. I think, like I said, I think I praised Jessica Tisch initially, but now I think she has no business being there. I think we actually need a police commissioner with police experience. And I said the other day, I said that, I think that Chief LaPetri should have been named the chief of department way before Shell or Marjorie ever were. Does that mean that I think that LaPetri should be the chief of department right now? No. I think that he worked. I think his work ethic, I think his competence level, I think his knowledge, I think, he is a savant when it comes to crime fighting. I won't deny that for a second, but where's his integrity? He knows all the shit that's been happening. He was modified too. Why was he modified? Oh, we know. So do I think that he should be the chief of department now? No. I think he should have been the chief of department 3 years ago, but he wasn't. And he showed his true colors, and I don't think he has any business being the chief of department now. And so what we're doing is we're just telling the hard truth about something that we care about and something that's very vital to the city, and not only to the city, because newsflash for all you cops that are on here, like, yeah, bro, I don't care about the job. I'm retired. I just comment on John McCarty's posts all day long, even though I don't care. What for you guys specifically, I'm talking to you. What do you think's going to happen if the NYPD gets replaced with the Department of Community Safety? What do you think's going to happen to your pension that you don't care about? What do you think's going to happen when you don't have new people paying into the pension system? Let me tell you, you're not going to have one. What do you think's going to happen to your healthcare? Let me tell you, you're not going to have it. So when you say you don't care, just know what you're saying, because words have power. Life and death is in the tongue. Remember that. If you don't care, that's okay. Good. I hope you got a lot of side hustles and you're making a lot of money doing something else. I hope you're not relying on that pension, because if you don't care, that shit's going to be gone. And it's probably going to be gone, not when you're young and healthy and you're strong, but when you're 67 years old and you got health issues going on and you're starting to develop shit and you're not the same dude that you were, and you're not able to go out and do other stuff and make money. So when you need it the most, it ain't going to be there. So when you say you don't care, just know what you're saying you don't care about.
Burning his time. Yeah, you know what? I think it's a good thing most cops don't understand inflation, because since 2020 inflation is, it's been like at 30%. You look at prices like eggs that used to be like $4, three and change. Actually even less than that, like maybe $2 back in 2020, and now it's like, it come down a little bit, but it's still hovering around $4 or $5, But it's a good thing cops don't understand inflation and don't really understand like money and or pension. I talk to a lot of them. They think there's some magical pension tree, that it's gonna continue funding your pension no matter what. It's guaranteed by the state. Yeah, okay, bro. Okay, bro. If the money ain't there, where's the how are we gonna fund the pensions? The funds themselves need an annual return of at least 7%. And again, if that return isn't there, the city has to kick in and fill that solvency ratio. And if the city don't have the money, how are they gonna fill the solvency ratio? They're gonna have to readjust your pension. It happened to other places, and don't think for a second that it can't happen here. And the other issue is that good thing you don't understand inflation, because there's something called nominal value and there's real value. So even if you have your pension is in nominal value only, okay? Because the cost of things are increasing rapidly, and you just because of your pension, you still have that wonderful pension doesn't mean you're still going to be able to afford those things. So this is why you need a healthy city. Because if you don't have a healthy ecosystem, right? No, it's not averaging 6%. Okay, I think you're talking about inflation, J-ramming. It's not 6%. That's a BS lie they tell you, because they've changed the metrics for measuring inflation. It's not. Okay, this is why you need a healthy ecosystem, because again, money has to continuously flow. There needs to be new, fresh blood in the system. You need, as people get older and they leave the city and businesses change, you need an ecosystem that thrives off new young people, that thrives off of new businesses and young people that come into the ecosystem, and they bring more money into the ecosystem. Okay, and you don't have that in New York. You have a place that's hemorrhaging people and money, and that's bad long term for your pension.
So there's a question here I want to answer. So it's kind of off topic, but Beauty and the Struggle has been a good friend to the podcast.
She's been asking this question for 2 podcasts.
Actually, but she just called you and I chickens for not answering. So you know what I'm going to answer. Beauty and the Struggle. How you doing?
Related. It's someone, but whatever. Who cares?
It's a girl, right? So okay. So she says, "Hey, what does everyone think of Bruce Separano sitting at home for 4 years and getting paid and getting raises, John, Eric, and Marlon?" Then she said, apparently Marlon responded. She called me and you chickens for not responding. So here's what I think. This is another indicator of the tiered system going on in the police department. Now, I know Bruce a long time, went to the academy together. We were friends. I don't think he supported me enough with what's going on here. He didn't speak out about it. He knew what was going on with my son, and we spoke about that, but I have no problem saying that. And I think that he really bent the knee to this upper echelon in this administration to get moving up in rank. This is a problem with the tiered system in the police department. There's no level playing field. Now, if Bruce legitimately worked, now I know Bruce was always a hard worker. He was a good worker. I'll never take that away from him. He was intelligent. I think he sold his soul when he started cozying up to Kaz Daughtry in this upper echelon. I have no problems. I'll tell him to his face. But he was a hard worker and intelligent. Now, I do believe if Bruce has 4 years of vacation time worked, I'm sure he worked it. There's no doubt about it. I don't think he would scam that. He's not that type of person. However, it shows you the tiered system in the police department. Because if you're a police officer or a detective or even a lieutenant, you would never have this opportunity to accumulate 4 years of time to be home and then have the amenities that it wouldn't affect your pension. Because Bruce is in a position as I think he retired as deputy chief, right? Or inspector. Either way, he's a high ranking. So he has the ability that if he stays home for 5 years, he gets the next rank's pension, right? If you're an inspector for 5 years, you get a deputy chief's pension. So for him, there's still benefits by being home. But if you're a police officer and if you had 4 years of vacation time, that would clearly hurt your pension. So it's a completely different tiered system. If you're a police officer, you would never even be able to accumulate that much time. So while I do believe he earned it, it just shows it's not a level playing field within the police department.
Yeah, I personally think it's ridiculous. There's cops that build up years of time. Captains could build up years of time. It is what it is. It's his money, and he's entitled to it. You should have asked me what I think about him sniffing Kaz Daughtry's ass. I mean, I would have rather answered that question, but I don't think there's absolutely anything wrong with him running his time. So, but screw Bruce Severano. Like, that's what, is he a hard worker? Yeah, no, 100%. I think that he was a hard worker. I think he was dedicated to the job. I think that, but again, he buttoned up to this administration, showed his true colors, and I really got nothing great to say about Bruce Severano. I got nothing bad to say about him. Did I knock him for sitting home and choosing his time? No. Will I knock him for sniffing Kaz Daughtry's ass? Absolutely. Oh, yo, okay, boss. Okay, boss. That's the real question you should have asked.
Well, I will tell Beauty of the Struggle this. If you ever have an opportunity, there was a time that Bruce was confronted by Cop Watch and someone else if they asked if they knew him, if he knew me. And he actually was texting with me, and they're like, "Oh, you know Eric Davis?" No, I don't know him. Meanwhile, he knew me very well. So it just shows you what happens when people cross a certain threshold and they start to get promoted, especially under Kaz Daughtry and John Shell in this administration, how they're terrified to actually be who they were. So he was terrified to admit that he actually knows me. So Bruce, I hope that still bothers you, because these guys are gonna be long forgotten, man. John Shell's gonna be hobbling on his ankle, and Kaz Daughtry will be cuddled up somewhere.
Look, before we get out of here, though, big thing came out, right? The Assembly and the Senate in New York, they passed that police radios would be accessible to the media, right? And it goes to Hochul's desk, and what does she do? She vetoes it, right? She vetoes it. But this is why she vetoes it. It's not because they care about officer safety. It's not because they care about public safety. It's because they don't want you to hear the absolute shit show that the NYPD, the premier agency in decline, is. I just want to take you back to a time when these two balloon heads, you're going to listen to two balloon heads on the radio. One at the time is the NYPD Chief of Patrol, John Shell. The other balloon head, I don't even think is an assistant commissioner yet. I think is still just a detective in the chief of department's office. Listen to this audio. They sit there, they talk about strength, honor, legacy. They talk that we bash the rank and file of the NYPD when we don't. The only people we ever really talk about is the leadership. Sometimes we call out nonsense that is going on down below. But most of the time, it's just these idiots running around. So listen to these two balloon heads. Listen to what they did. Marlon made a great meme, right? You see on Kaz Daughtry's head, caution, compressed air, and his head is swollen. You should do the same thing for Shell, because it's all hot air, right? It's all helium, like. And so what they do is there's a job where NYPD is confronting an emotionally disturbed male in the hallway with a firearm. And they're not on the scene. They know nothing about what's going on. And Kaz Daughtry starts to bark orders to get off the floor and await the arrival of ESU while they're holding a male with a firearm at gunpoint, causing confusion, endangering the members, and showing that he has no business being in the position that he's in. And then John Shell, like Bruce Severano, sniffs Kaz Daughtry's ass and doubles down and shows just how stupid he is. So listen to this in 1 minute and 28 seconds on the radio. This is why Hochul vetoed the bill, by the way. There was nothing else they could point to. This is what it really is. No one wants to show the debacle and the shit show that the NYPD has become, and the wait and response times and what's actually happening, and the lack of leadership in the NYPD. That's why they're pulling those radios down and encrypting all the radio, is because of morons. Listen to these two idiots.
Yeah. 114 Sergeant. If the pub is still barricaded. If the pub is still barricaded, okay.
Yeah, he's in and out of his apartment in the hallway right now. Have you also come floor, await the arrival of ESU. Everybody clear the floor, await the arrival of ESU. Central, read that message out loud. 114 CO. 114
CO.
Who's advising? Chief of Department's office is advising. Four shooting. Operation time.
Please all need standby from the floor waiting on ESU. Authority. 114 CO.
I need to know if there's shots fired by MOS. Yes or no? Affirmative.
Affirmative to what?
Listen to me.
Shot was
114 CO in here. Yeah. First of all, you got the radio. Everyone else stays off radio. Are there shots fired by MOS? That's affirmative. The perpetrator was in the hallway, armed with firearms.
So what do you think about that? You know, Shell was very concerned. He wasn't concerned if shots were fired at MOS. He was very, very concerned if shots were fired by MOS, you know, because that's the main concern there. You know, they were very concerned. You know, what do you think, Marlon? Like you were a detective, you weren't a supervisor, but you've been out there in these situations. If you were a supervisor, is this something that you would ever engage in, second guessing your guys and micromanaging them from a scene that you're not on? You have no fucking idea what's going on? Like, does this seem like competence to anybody? Because it doesn't to me.
Yeah, I was never a supervisor, and that infuriates me, you know, because like I said, we need to get back to where the precinct command is. You know, you're a precinct commander, it's your show, you know. And this micromanaging from the top is just BS, you know? And I mean, if you don't trust the precinct CEO to run a show, then why you made him precinct CEO for, you know? Why is he the boss? Is he the boss? You know? The fact that like Kaz himself is jumping on that radio too is just unbelievable, you know? If I was that CEO, I would have wanted to see and had to talk about that, you know? But part of the problem with this job is that we've taken away decision making and agency, right, from the guys on the bottom, and we've all put it at the top. And now you have those rookies on the sector car. Now they have to wait. They got to wait for the sergeant to come around and make a decision about making a collar or you know, taking a complaint. This is how we get there.
You know, it just makes me feel really sorry for the cops right now, the rank and file, because we did an episode on this. So friends and listeners, if you missed it, 2 years ago, John and myself did a full episode on this particular incident. It was called Micromanagement and Its Effects on the NYPD. That was 2 years ago. And it was happening even before that. So just think about it, though. The rank and file has had to deal with that idiocracy, inadequate leadership for 2 years. Even more than that from these idiots. So not only is it micromanagement, which just totally takes away from critical thinking, right? When you micromanage, you can't have critical thinking, right? Because your decisions are in fear. Oh, I can't do this because of this. I can't do that because of that. So the bottom line is, not only is it idiocracy, to me, they actually put those cops, all of them, and the leadership on scene. They put them in danger. They actually risked their lives because they put them in a position where they couldn't have critical thinking. And they have to, while they're engaged in a gun battle, they have to answer up to incompetence and egotistical maniacs that are sitting from a distance. By most, if they wanted to get on the radio, by most, they could have what they should have done and say, hey, we're at the chief of the department's office. We hear what's going on. If you need any assistance, any tools, please let us know and get off the fucking air. That's it.
Yep.
Just offer your help and let them do their job. Leadership at every level. Let them do their job clearly and without thinking about you so that they're safe. So this is incompetence, idiocracy, but at the worst thing is that it's egotistical. Is their egos were getting in the way of the whole operation, not allowing them to actually operate with critical thinking and be analytical and have a clear mindset to keep themselves safe. So to me, not only did they impede their ability to do their job, but they impede their ability to keep themselves safe. And thank God it turned out to be okay and no one got hurt. But that could have been damaging if that happened again and again. I'm sure it did, and we're pretty lucky no one got hurt as a result of their actions. But I think that's a major problem. What they were doing, that micromanagement, especially in real time while they're involved in a gun battle, and the fact that he didn't even ask that any perpetrators fire at MOS just shows they don't even care about the cops. They just wanted to mingle, interfere, be involved, show their power, flex their muscle, but not care about the cops. So they say that we don't care about the cops. That's a lie. They don't care. They had to, from the chief of department's office. You're from a distance from the chief of department's office, and you're trying to dictate what they should do in a hallway that you can't see what's going on when their lives are on the line. When their lives are on the line, that is terrible. That is sad. That is a shit show.
It's sheer incompetence, dude. It's like, how could you not think that you're interfering? Like, you're coming over from the weight of the department and you're having these cops second guess themselves on the scene you're not on. You're giving them orders that like could potentially get one of them killed. Back off the scene. I have a guy at gunpoint and he has a gun in his hand. You're telling me to back out of the hallway, like get out of there, wait the arrival. It's you. You have no idea what's happening. It's just like the level of incompetence there was, and to sit there and say, oh, we don't care, when clear as day, you see it over and over again, how they really don't care. It's all about me and mine. Well, I got my parking plaque. I don't care if the cops get their parking plaque taken away. You know, and he mentions it all the time about our pensions. Like, it's like, well, I got mine, I got mine. It's like, wow, bro, really not impressed, dude. So what? What? Oh, what'd you do? You went and bought a nice car? I drive a nice car too, dude. Like, what do you like? What's your point? Like, you got a house? Oh, I got a couple of houses, bro. Like, what's your point, dude? What's your point? Like, I don't get what your point is. Oh, I made more money than you. You sold your soul, dude. You sold your soul. You exposed yourself, and that's why you could start any network you want. You could do any major media hit you want. Nobody cares. Nobody listens to you. And look, it's that's just what it is, dude. That's just what it is. Nobody cares, and that's what they want. They want to try to pretend like they're this unfiltered, honest voice for policing, and they're lies. It's all perception management. So, unfortunately, I hate to say it. The NYPD is a law enforcement agency in decline. Law enforcement as a whole is an agency, is a profession that's in decline. And I'm not saying because I'm proud of it. I'm saying it. I was part of it too. I'm partly guilty for all of it, right? We're all partly guilty for everything that's happened in law enforcement, and so like, I'm not saying it because I take joy in it and I hate the profession. No, I love the profession. I think it's very important. I like to know that when my wife goes to shopping, I don't have to worry because they're men and women that are actually competent, that do their job, that keep criminals away. I like to know that when my children are in school, they're protected when they're not near me. I like to know all those things. I want competent police. I want competent constitutional policing. That's what I want. And I don't see it. I see a profession that's dying. And for Jessica Tisch to get up there and say that, it's just a complete lie. And she literally contradicts what she said only months prior. So to me, it's disgraceful. I really got nothing else on this. When you guys are ready, we'll go around. We'll start to read the super chats, close this out. I didn't even realize it was 3 hours this morning. And I didn't have any coffee this morning, boys, in case you couldn't tell.
No mushroom coffee?
No mushroom coffee. I'm going to have it right after this talk.
John ruined my life with that mushroom coffee. I guess my wife must have subliminally heard the podcast, and all I know is she made me mushroom coffee one day. And I spit it out. I was like, what is this? It's disgusting. It's terrible. Don't buy it. Come on, Marlon.
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna say that I think Chell, we pointed this out like many times before. We even pointed it out the maybe a day or two after they first did it, right? What Chell has been doing is part of a PR tactic. Again, it's part of a perception management tactic. Perception management is part of PR. It's an intelligence and a media tactic. So what he's been doing is part of that. He wants to displace our criticism of the leadership onto the boots on the ground. And we've pointed out numerous times before that we're not criticizing boots on the ground. The problems that they face are a reflection of who they have, the leadership at One Police Plaza. Okay, we're criticizing the buffoons at the top of One Police Plaza, not the cops on the street. Okay, we're trying to make things better for them. Okay, because again, we care about the product and we care about the home team. Okay, Chell's hoping that the law information people out there, okay, the people who aren't paying attention to any of this, are going to hear his talking points and think, oh yeah, man, these guys are out of hand. They're criticizing cops. They shouldn't be criticizing cops. No, that's not it at all. Okay, that's not it at all. We're pointing out the inequities on the job and things that need to change. Okay, for the long-term health of the job. And remember, Shell was chief of department like 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, if he cared about the product, he would have implemented these changes. You don't need a survey going out there to figure out what the hell is wrong with the job. Okay, go to a precinct and you can find out yourself. Ask somebody who had to go and file and they needed a 61 done. Okay, ask them did they feel the service they got was adequate. Okay, it's not that hard. Okay, so again, don't if you see he's gonna tweet again about that, because he did when we criticized Scott Monroe last week. He tried it again, and he's gonna keep doing it, because that perception management, like we said at the beginning of this episode, is all they have left.
You know, there was a time I loved the NYPD. I loved the job. I loved the guys that I worked with, and I loved the NYPD and what it stood for. I don't love it now. I don't love what it's become. That doesn't mean I can't love it again. And that's why we do this network, is we wanted to swing back to what it was, or swing back to something better. And unfortunately, listen, I never wore NYPD shirts throughout my career. I didn't off duty. I was never really into buff shirts. I would buy them, God forbid a police officer was killed in the line of duty. I would buy them to support the cause, but I never wore them. I would just put it in my closet, and it would never sit there. I figured one day when I retire, I'd probably wear those shirts. And I can tell you right now, you know how many NYPD shirts I wear in retirement? 0. I don't wear any. And the reason why is because it's not the go-to policing anymore. If I talk about the NYPD, it doesn't get the same glamour that it should. And I can tell you right now, people outside New York City, they're not impressed. They're not impressed when I talk about the NYPD at all if I'm asked about it. I don't offer it, but if it comes up in conversation, unfortunately, they're not impressed by it. And years ago, they would have been. I remember I went to Hurricane Katrina in 2005 with the job. And back then, when we went down to Louisiana and New Orleans to help out, we were rock stars back then. I remember I had a year on the job. I was a rookie, and everyone was just like, wow, NYPD. All the other police departments looked at you like you were rock stars. And that's gone right now. We've lost that mystique. We lost that stigma. We lost the go-to policing. I wanted to come back. I love what I did. I love doing police work, but that's not what it is right now. Can it come back? I believe anything can come back, but it's not where it needs to be. And I wouldn't wear an NYPD shirt off duty right now. No one would care, and I don't have that same feeling about it, because I wouldn't be representing what it is now. I would be representing something that it was. So hopefully we can come back to that. It's unfortunate, and I'm sure a lot of people here feel the same. The job was once, it was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of the police department. You were so proud of it, and you were proud of the men and women that you became brothers. Like when it comes to Bruce Separano, I mentioned that name. I'm shocked. I mean, we came on the academy together. I helped that guy out so many times, and I know he's not a bad guy deep down, but he allowed this administration, and he allowed his desire to get promoted get in the way of who he really was. And I hope he can get back to that, but I know that was lost for some time, and that's a shame that we could actually get to that point. If you think about when you get on the job, do you think that one day you will let rank actually change who you are and money? I think that's a shame. If you let money change who you are and rank, that shows that maybe that's not really who you were to begin with. And that, and that brings out those personality traits that maybe you didn't know you had.
You want to see a man, give him power, right? That's what they say, right? You want to see who a person really is, give him power. See how he treats the people that could do nothing for him, right? Seen how that turned out with John Schell and Kaz Daughtry and Eric Adams, haven't we? Not so well, not so well. All right, let's get to these super chats. We got a lot of them. Thank you, everybody. So Daniel Curzina will start with. He says, God bless you guys for having to deal with mouth-breathing cavemen who post bullshit anonymously. Your chat gave me irreversible brain damage. I don't know how you do it. Here's some coffee. Him and Beauty and the Struggles were going back and forth. Listen, we love you both. Don't fight. It's all good. We got to spar a little, right? That's how we get better. We got to spar.
That's it. We got to be pressure tested.
Right? We got to, we need debate for the pressure test, So, all opinions here. Opinions aren't violence, people. So, Merry Christmas.
They're not?
Hit me up. Hit me up. You owe me dinner, and so does Curtis. That's it. You guys owe us all dinner. Take me a mall. So here we go. Modern Samurai. You guys are the worst. Thanks for nothing. Just kidding. Keep up the good work. Coffee and donuts on me. The NYPD and New York City is worth defending. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all. Absolutely. Merry Christmas, brother. Pat Donahue, the Mad Chatter, the original Mad Chatter before Hassan. He said, take a moment to remember Detective Joseph Lem, killed in action 12/21/15. Yesterday was 10 years since Joe was killed in Bagram. Rest in peace, Superman. Donnie B315 also says, rest in peace, Detective Joe Lem. 10 years, killed in action, Afghanistan, 12/21/15. Rafael Martinez. Wow, bro. Very generous for the holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Been here since you guys had only 10K subs, now close to 70. Hope you guys get to 500,000 soon. God bless. Yeah, thanks, brother. Look, we're closing in. I thought we would get to like 80 before the end of the year, but I don't think so. I think we'll get about 70,000. But I think we'll be at the 6-figure mark soon, and then start trudging towards that the 7 figures. So again, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters, the subs. Like I know you guys don't care either. I mean, like it's nice. It's good to see that the audience is growing. We're getting more people in here. But I don't know. It's really just a good therapy session, I think, for all of us. Definitely for me, But I think the chat too. I think everybody really enjoys it. So I don't think the subs matter. Like, do you guys care? Like, if we hit the goal?
I'll take 70,000 super chats, 70,000 cups of coffee.
I'll take 70,000. Yeah, I'll take 70,000 super chats. That's a little different. That's a little different.
If we can get 70,000 cups of coffee, I mean, forget about it.
But I mean, listen, to be fair, it is good to see that like we're getting some recognition on the internet and like from a lot of people, because like we've interacted with a lot of big people, have a lot of big podcasts and a lot of big names in media, and they're like, dude, I don't know how you guys aren't at 1 million subscribers. I don't know how you don't have millions of followers. Like, the quality of the content's really good. The show's really good. It's very informative. A lot of people are into it. But really, like, what it is I think bigger than the show is the engagement, right? Like, we have an engaged audience that interacts, that says what the hell they think, and they're informed. They've done the job. They've worked on the streets. They live in the streets. They're actual professional people, whether they're from behind anonymous names or not. I think, it's pretty impactful to hear all of these, the debate go on back and forth between the chat, our haters, everybody, because this is what's actually happening behind the scenes. So I think that's what it is,
Yeah. I saw a comment earlier. I was trying to scroll back and get it and find it, but I couldn't. But hey, listen, guys, don't get it twisted. We have a great a roster of lawyers that are always coming on the show and explaining where things are at. And I think Eric Sanders is one of them too. And I got to see him go to work in the trial room, and he is amazing. Okay, just because I don't understand the mile and a half run doesn't mean that I don't think he's an amazing lawyer and someone that if I get back on the job, like I said, I ain't giving the detective union a damn thing anymore. Okay, I'm gonna go keep good attorneys like Eric Sanders on retainer. So when the job tries to get at me, I have somebody who's actually gonna fight for me. Okay, so don't get it twisted. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to say is that if annual fitness standards comes out of this, then I think it'd be great. Now, I don't think it's going to come for the veterans, because I think you just can't put it on there. But I think definitely should it be there for the new guys coming in? Absolutely. Especially since a lot of them.
Why can't we just put a condition of employment now? We could do that, right? They force you to put something in your arm, or they could just do that. Why not?
Yeah.
You got to be able to run a mile and a half run. Sorry, fat fuck. Sorry.
Yeah. Apparently we could. But
I think that there has to be standards. I don't agree that there are only standards just for the academy and not throughout your career. I think there should always be standards, right? You take tests to get promoted. You have to have a significant amount of knowledge and information as you go through your career. And the same thing goes with your physical fitness. Physical fitness is so important. It correlates. If cops were physically fit, their mental they would be more mentally positive. I believe that they would also eat better because, John, you know, we talk about working out all the time. When you're training, if you eat like a shit meal, you don't want to work out. You feel bloated. You don't feel good. So if people are working out and they're exercising, I believe that they'll eat better. And what does that correlate? If you eat better and you're exercising, your mind, there's more clarity. There's definitely, I read a lot of studies, and a lot of people there that have ADHD or other issues, a lot what I'm reading is that it's correlated to the foods that they intake. So I do believe that if you're eating better, you'll have better mindset, better clarity. Taking creatine, it's supposed to give you better memory, even if you lack sleep, things like that. I think that you should be physically fit, less chance that you go out sick. Your body could also endure more. If you're working out, there's no doubt about it. If you fall, your body can endure more than if someone who's not training, right? You can, and you also heal better, faster recovery, but it's also better for your mindset. So I do believe there should be a physical standard. Now, the standard doesn't have to be something crazy. If you're in the academy and you're expected to run a mile and a half in 15 minutes, you know, if you're a 50-year-old man in the police department, maybe there's some type of test you do. Maybe not necessarily run a mile and a half, but something to test that as a 50-year-old man, you're in good health and that you're capable of doing the job. And I think that's something that we should explore and come up with some solutions and figure out some type of physical test that you're tested for your age group and while you're on the job. If you're 60 years old and you're in the police department, we don't expect you to run a mile and a half, but something to know that you could touch your toes and that you could do standard things. So with that being said, it's Monday morning. This is Christmas week. We'll be here Wednesday morning. We're going to be on for about an hour, maybe 60 to 90 minutes, have some fun with you. And we won't be here Friday, of course, because it's Christmas. We wish everybody an awesome Christmas. Have an awesome week. And the shows will be on this week. Tomorrow, Sal Greco will be here. And, of course, 10-4 Tavern will be here at night. And Wednesday, the Executive Perspective won't be here doing something live. We'll have something going on. But we'll keep you posted. We'll keep you posted on social media. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for being friends and listeners and supporting us as we support you. Let's build together. Thank you so much.
All right, let's keep going. We got NYPD 8311. January 1st, this show will become the most consequential platform for MOS, whether they listen or not, for their voices to be heard. Unions absent, Adams administration most corrupt. Mandani will be the most dangerous. Look, again, I think that I don't think it gets more scary than the Eric Adams administration. I think, what we saw. I really don't. I really don't. I think that you're going to see a lot more platforms wake up and push back at the Mandani administration. And I don't know what the fear was of the Eric Adams. I guess cops just really are scared of criminals. So I know they don't really want to, they're easy to go at a 33-year-old socialist, but not so easy to go at a 64-year-old former rabble rouser, former police officer, NYPD captain who took all his Scout friends they smoked pot with and did some other weird stuff with and put them in charge of the greatest department in the world. So, so let's see what happens with that, But yeah, no, definitely tune in with us. We're looking forward to it. So Merry Christmas to your brother. Thanks for being here all year.
There's more coffee donuts. Here we go.
We got a ton, bro. So Upstate Detective. Good morning, brothers. The Cooper standard of physical fitness testing is still widely used in New York State to be higher by many police departments. Look, I'm with Eric. We need standards. Am I saying that I hate Eric Sanders because I disagree with him? No. I mean, if I hated, I disagree with a lot of people on a lot of different points, and it's fine. It's not, that's what this is. This is America. We're allowed to have dialogue and give opinions and speak and talk about the reasons why. So, but there absolutely needs to be standards. Nana P2P2H says, the new police look like fat Majun Buu straight out of the academy. It's preposterous.
That's an enemy character, a fat enemy character.
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Who is that?
It's a one of those Dragon Ball Z characters. It's a cartoon character from I
gotta look that up.
Uncle Luke says, oh Lord, I love these live streams. I learned so much from you guys. And sometimes I get a laugh out of the comment section. By the way, did you guys watch AmpFest? I did not watch a second of it. I'm not a big WWE fan, so I don't like, these guys are all playing WWE. I don't believe. Did any of you guys watch it?
No, they should go to Sal Greco for that. Sal's into that stuff. I'm not into it. I know Sal loves that. So
Is that TP USA thing?
It's the TP, the Turning Point USA thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that I pointed out like Nicki Minaj showing up there.
That was good.
Really? I'm like, I'm sorry, I had questions before when Charlie Kirk was killed, and I have even more questions now when you bring up people like Nicki Minaj and you're telling like little girls that they should aspire. This is a good person they should idolize.
To me, TP USA is all acting full of shit. Honestly, it is WWE. It's
Charlie Kirk was Turning Point. Like he's not there anymore. Like I just, I don't know. I don't give a shit what Ben Shapiro's got to say. Or
I can't stand him.
I never liked Ben Shapiro. Like, so it's like, I love that they were all ragging on him, but I was like, I never really agree with him on a lot. I always thought he was a little Democrat. Same way, like I think about Benny Johnson and the rest of them. I take everything those guys say, and I'm like, I just brush it off my shoulders because I'm like, it's not real. Like it's not him. He's just pushing a narrative. It's clear as day to me, phony. So like that's your new thing. Then like, Charlie Kirk, I disagree with on a lot of shit too, but like I thought he was like being legit about what he thought. I didn't think he was just narrative pushing,
It changed.
But yeah, but the chat was funny as hell today. You guys are some racist bastards. That's all I know. It's a comedy show. One dude said being a black female is the best job, is the best thing on a job. Corey McGee said long distance runners are all white.
Yeah.
This is like a racist comedy show. Like what the hell? Yeah,
it's actually funny though.
yeah. It's all funny, but that's what's funny, right? Like that's funny as shit. It's told to you so back when he said it when he said it when he announced her for the job. Oh, he's talking about Adams and Tish. Must have been a comment back. Nana sends another one. Funny how a lot of these DEI. What is it?
No, he was referring to she was behind the database and that whole tracking.
Yeah. She was. Yeah, she built that whole infrastructure to track, to make sure that you were fully vaccinated. We just left out those things called natural antibodies that are.
They must have had a column, John. One side who's dirty and one side who's clean. Oh, I'm sorry, it should have been three. Who's dirty, who's clean, and then who has ranked, who doesn't have to get the vaccine.
Hate has no place here except if you're unvaccinated. Then we could discriminate against you and do all that shit.
It's like it became a religion. Oh, are you Jewish? Oh, no, I'm unvaccinated.
Doesn't matter if you're poor. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what religion you believe in. We're allowed to hate on you. Like throw all that shit out the window. Throw all that my body, my choice shit out the window. Let's go. So he says, so Nana says, funny how a lot of these DEI and policy changes start because of someone who just happens to be a Jew. The tiny hats are the ones pushing all this. Come on, man. Look, I'm no fan of everybody simping for Israel at all. But like the people that blame Jews for everything, I mean, it gets old, dude. Eric's here. Like, what's Eric in charge of? He's a Jew.
Yeah,
like,
that's
Eric control the world. Like Eric, what do you like? Are you a tiny hat guy? Like,
apparently not. I mean, I can't even control the Internal Affairs Bureau. I mean, they were investigating me. I didn't have enough pull, right? Hey, Jessica, we're both Jewish. Can you figure out what happened with this Internal Affairs Bureau investigation?
Yeah.
Where's my tiny hat?
I just think I did a podcast not that long ago, and the guy kept saying the Jews, and I was like, who specifically are you talking about? Are you taking like everyone, and there's like everyone like the Jews, like all the Jews? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what, like, like it's like the blacks, the whites, the Italians. It's dumb talk, man. It's like, it's stupid. I don't even think it's racist. I just think it's ignorant. It's like complete ignorance. It's just, you're just not looking. It's low resolution thinking. It's like, there's so much nuance in every group that if you're going to label one group as one thing, you're the moron. It's like, it's not them. Like, you know what I mean? And it could be the disproportionately one group does other stuff, right? If you're going to look back to the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and if you're going to look at who committed a lot of crime in the cities, you're going to see it was Italians and Jews. It's not because does that mean that every Italian was a criminal? Does that mean that every Jewish person was a criminal? No, but that was who disproportionately committed crime, right? Like now that demographic has shifted. So, I mean, it's stupid, you know. Popeye says, let's not forget Hanukkah, even though he didn't spell it right. Well, you know, I'm not good with spelling either. Don't worry, Popeye. You know, happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
We got Ralph the legend, baby. He says, good morning, guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, Ralph. Happy New Year, brother. So yeah, Ralph's episode's still doing pretty well. Everybody's getting a good laugh at that. I still see a lot of comments coming out. It's told to you back when says Adam said in public she was one of the architects of the system placed during COVID. Again, talking about Jessica Tisch. Absolutely, she was one of the architects of this surveillance state that were watching the right cheer on, saying, "Oh, it's going towards illegals. It's going towards illegals." It's like, oh wow, well they could shift that pretty quick to let's, you know, when Democrats control the presidency and Congress again. What could they do? Oh, it could be the unvaccinated. It could be Christians. It could be Jews. It could be Muslims. It could be men. It could be white men. You know, it could be track runners. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's like people have like aren't too forward thinking these days. Told you back when said Eric Sanders didn't take COVID cases. Go figure. I know he didn't take them then, but he did actually get one through for a Muslim female correction officer who was terminated from corrections. So he did take one of those. And again, I thought that proved a bias in the New York State court system. So I was actually kind of happy with the case that he had and that it was victorious, even though it not that it was victorious, but it went on through the next from the city's motion to dismiss. Because it did prove clear as day, New York State courts hates Christians. So, the original Mo, Hassan. He says, good morning, Mushroom Mute, RV Mo's. You guys need to start a travel blog. Marlon fell asleep, wake him up. And is Sal mowing his lawn today by chance? He's the happiest he's been today. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, always in loving memory of Derek. Hassan, that's a long one, brother. You know, who else we got? We got a couple more.
Hassan, Raphael is showing you up, man.
Yeah, Raphael beat you, bro. Good week. Who do we got? Eddie West. I would love for you guys to bring you guys and Dennis Benino street cop training together on the podcast. I think he has invaluable training and wealth of knowledge that well surpasses any academy training. He would be an epic guest. Yeah, I definitely seen a lot of his posts. Like maybe we could make that happen. Yeah. So yeah, if you know him personally, put him in touch with us. We'll
he's good. He's good.
Yeah, we could definitely make that happen. Snake Pliskin, $4.99. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And then we got Rod with another big donation trying to show up Raphael. Actually, Raphael still takes the cake though. He says Rod 442 Rod what can I say? Rod R442 MPCO. I don't know the name. I don't know why YouTube did this to the names. You guys are great. I look forward. I look every day to hearing for you guys. God bless and happy holidays. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa if you celebrate, you know, happy holidays. All right, fellas. 19 super chats today. It was a lot. Appreciate you guys.
One more, we get a full 20.
Yeah.
Wait. I think 70,000 super chats.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys got anything else before we run?
No, thank you, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Marlon.
I was just going to mention that we still have a couple of shows before we go into the holidays. And tomorrow, Sal is having on Joshua Torres. Mm-hmm. You know, he was terminated by the job and he just won in court. And so he was represented again by Eric Sanders. So he did a fantastic job there, and he's going to be on tomorrow with Sal at 1:05 tomorrow to talk about it. And then we have Monty Bynum of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation on tomorrow at the 10-Foot Tavern. So we got some great shows coming up. And on Wednesday also, check out the Executive Perspective. We're going to have, the early interviews with Ron and Rob when they first came on the Finest. So.
No, I just want to say this. I wish everyone happy holiday for Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever the case. And I know this is a rough time of year. It's a rough time of year for my family also with the loss of Derek. So anyone else, if you know, holiday is supposed to be an enjoyable time, but for some, it's also a sad time too. So if you're alone these holidays and you need someone to reach out to, you can reach out to any one of us. And if you just want to chat, we'll be there for you. I know the unions won't, but I want to thank everyone. Seriously, we're almost getting towards the end of the year. We're really growing here, but we're growing all together. A big part of our growth is our friends and listeners. Without you, we couldn't get to this point. So I want to thank you. Thank you, everyone, for reaching to your pockets and giving us coffee and donuts. We joke about it, but we appreciate it. Allows us to pay for the expenses that it takes to keep up this network and the website. So I want to thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Let's keep rocking together, everyone, and hope everyone has an awesome Christmas. Get your kids whatever they need if you can, and enjoy. God bless. Thank you, everyone. The Finest Unfiltered.
All right, we'll see you guys Wednesday. All right, check out Sal Greco tomorrow, 13:05. All right, Finest Unfiltered. We'll be back at you, peoples.
Clearly they are right. He good? Wow. Back up. Talking to a big dog, nigga. Get the fuck off me. You talking to a big dog, nigga, you talking to a big dog, nigga. Who you talking to, nigga? I'm neighborhood, nigga.
Yo, listen. Can y'all please get him on the floor like that, please?
Yo, listen, y'all making this shit worse.
Y'all nigga make it worse. Back up. Let him on the floor.
Yo, listen. I've been going through it. Y'all can see. Get on the sidewalk. Come on. Get on the sidewalk. I'm mad gangster. Nigga.
I got him. You don't have to get on the sidewalk. You can't tell him.
I'm mad gangster.
You don't have to get on no sidewalk.
I'm mad gangster, nigga.
Stop.
What's you what? What are you talking about? I'm mad gangster.
He ain't do nothing. He helping the situation. This nigga is a piece of shit.
Nigga, punch my man. I ain't saying you with your dog. You was alright. Your dog is a bitch. Your dog is a bitch.
He's mad aggressive.
You pussy, nigga. So you suck my dick.
Take that badge and all that shit off. I bet you get fucked up. Take that shit off, you get fucked up. Back up. They kids. Back up. Back the fuck up. Don't walk up on niggas. Back up. They kids. So I know y'all not about to get crazy with kids, bro. They mad, man. Y'all understand? What they doing? They kids.
Cause y'all violating the bro. You mean just punched him.
He's mad aggressive. He's too aggressive, bro. He's too aggressive. This recording must stop. I gotta have the Hold him. That's it. Seriously, for spitting on the floor? Are you the lieutenant? Who's the sergeant?
I respect you.
Yo, Z, who's the sergeant?
You wasn't that bad.
Who's the sergeant? Who's the sergeant, bro? That's the sergeant? That's the sergeant? Yo, sergeant. Seriously, man. There's way more serious shit going on. Spitting on the floor? Spitting on the floor. This officer over here is mad
my little brother. Can I get an answer? That's my little brother. Can I get an answer? You answering other niggas. I'm talking to you. I bitch ass my little brother. Fuck is you talking about?
Yeah, don't work.
The fuck? I bitch on your little brother.
Talk yourself. Y'all gotta know how to talk, bro. Y'all niggas don't know how to talk. You can't even find out what's going on, bro.
And we going to that police. Shut up, nigga. Yo.
Shit don't make no sense.
Sergeant. I don't give a fuck about that, nigga. Suck my dick, nigga. Fuck you talking about? I'm asking you a serious question.
Put that cup down. Get off the street.
Nigga, I'm asking a question. I can do that.
Yeah, you can, but
What are you talking about?
aggressive. We trying to help you, and y'all niggas too aggressive.
I'm gonna do one ass cop. That's my brother. I can ask any question I fucking feel like, nigga. Hey, stop doing it. That nigga's a dick sucker. Oh my grandmother. This nigga right here. This nigga right here.
Like, gang, this is bad.
Yeah, y'all making it more worse for little ones. Fucking Facebook.
He's spilled a foot out.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?